David, you've got your hand up now. I don't know if that's a point of order. Right. I'm just going to give it one more minute. Okay, we'll make a start. I want to welcome everybody this morning. Lovely to see you virtually. This will be Gillian Meron's last meeting as Chief Executive, and I hope that you will give a very warm welcome to our interim Chief Executive, Michael Uyghur, who's also joining us today. And we have a new deputy, Dovi David, who's the deputy to Tiferet Ayal Synagogue, which is an affiliate of the Federation, and I hope that you'll all give him a warm welcome. And it's very, very good to see you. We've got a very, thank you, a very, very tight agenda today. So I want to try and move on as quickly as I can. I can see that David's got his hand up. So you said it was a point of order, David? You're on mute. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Well, we'll have to come back to David later. I can't hear you, you're on mute. Dory, do you have a point of order, Dory? Well, you're also on mute. Okay, you're both trying, and I'm sorry for that. I'll have to ask.
Thank you. I've been unmuted. We couldn't unmute because we were blocked from unmuting. Quick one, I'd like to join on a second device. I've always been able to do it, and I've been blocked today. Any reason for that?
I don't know, but I'm really sorry. Because we've got such a packed agenda, I'm only can take points of order. Really sorry. David, you're trying really hard. Would you like to send a message, please, to somebody if it's a point of order, to Judy Silkoff, please? David Farby,
do you hear me now?
Oh, yes. Hello.
Very quick one. Please, let's next year not have the Sunday before Pesach for a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just thank you, but points of order. Right. Thank you. Right. I can't tell if there's a different coloured hand that I've seen before for David Farby. Is this a point of order, David? No. Right. Thank you. You seem to have a different colour hand up. Right. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. First bit of housekeeping. Are the minutes of the board meeting of the 21st of February approved? Because I haven't had any comments on those meetings, which were certainly a very full set of notes. Thank you. I should take those as approved. We've got a slight change in the order of the agenda, and the next item that we're going to take will be the resolution for electronic voting, and you've been sent the resolution. So at this point, I'm going to ask Jeremy Sher to come on to explain the resolution for electronic voting for the election. Are you there, Jeremy?
Yes, good morning, Marie. Good morning, deputies. I hope you're all well. The resolution that we've put forward, that's been developed by Colin Grayson, Karen Newman, the Vice Chair of the Constitution Committee, and me, together with input from the board staff. Following the defeat of the new constitution, we were left in the position where we do not have a system in our current constitution to deal with digital voting in the honorary officers' elections. As a result, from a constitutional and legal perspective, we face a choice of either we adjourn the HO elections, or we make certain changes, which we're able to do under clause 35 of the Constitution, temporary changes. They're suspensions. These are suspensions, not permanent changes, to enable us to adopt digital voting. And that's what we've done. And you'll see if you look through the resolution, is to suspend certain provisions relating to physical voting. We're not going to obviously have a person going around with a box in a room. It's essentially to establish a secure website. You will be provided with a unique ID. You will be able to then go in, and then you'll be able to go and vote. The key point for the Constitution Committee is that everything takes place as close as we can to what would normally happen. And let me give those who are thinking of running just a very quick overview of the key dates, if you've got a pen and paper handy. Nominations will open on the 1st of April. And then 38 days later, the election meeting will begin at 10:30 on the 9th of May. That's in line with normal practice. But then the election committee meeting will continue until 2 p.m. on the 10th of May. Now, why are we going for over 24 hours? Well, obviously our meeting's on a Sunday. If there are technical issues, the office will then be open on Monday morning, and you can speak to Judy and the rest of the fantastic board staff if you're having technical issues. But the key point is everything in this resolution is to enable us to do what we do physically, to do it in a digital format. Otherwise, the alternative is we have to adjourn the election meeting until we can move physically. And as far as the Constitution Committee is concerned, that's really not a realistic option. So I do ask you all to endorse it. I've had quite a few questions from a number of deputies already, and I'm happy to take any, one or two questions. I know that we're a bit tight for time, but if there are one or two questions, I'm really happy to clarify them with you, because this is important, and realistically, this is the only way forward. And if we don't do this, we're going to be in a position where we're going to have to adjourn the election, and I just don't see that as a realistic prospect. I think Tal's got a question, I can see.
And David Sello.
Yeah. Tal. Hi, Tal.
Hi, good morning, Jeremy. Tal for Chigwell and Hainault. Very quick questions about the nominations. Will they also be done electronically through a specific link? And
yes.
Will there be a deadline for the nominations?
Yes, the deadline for the nominations, I'm sorry, I've managed to close that. I think
it's the 31st of March.
No, that's not.
Oh, sorry, the 15th of April. Sorry, the 15th of April.
Yeah, sorry, you're quite right. It's the 15th of April. No, that's wrong as well. I've got the document here now in front of me. I'm sorry, I closed it. So 1st of April is you'll get the pack. 23rd of April. This is coming out on Monday if we approve the resolution. Nominations will close. 28th of April. All deputies will be sent links to manifestos. This is all going to happen electronically this year. 9th of May, the meeting starts. I'm just going to repeat that again so that we're all absolutely clear. 1st of April, the nomination pack, and you'll also get in that pack the list of what I call the electorate, who can vote. 23rd of April, nominations to close. 28th of April, the list of candidates and manifestos. 9th of April, meeting starts. We're using a system, just to address one point that Tal raised, a system created by a company called UK Engage. Judy has identified 3 different prospects. For financial and experience reasons, we're going with UK Engage. It's independently run, and it has independent oversight. It had been intended that I would be the returning officer, but due to personal circumstances, I can't. So Colin Grayson will be appointed as the returning officer, and he will work with Michael to have oversight of the program. And as you'll know, Colin's a retired judge of the Employment Court, so a very senior person. I could see David, I think, was next with the next question.
Yes. Hello there. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes. Hi, David.
Yeah.
How are you?
Can I ask about Board of Deputies members who do not have computers or have disabilities? Because in previous voting for the honorary officers, we've allowed postal voting, and also, if I recall, and also proxy voting. So we have
David,
some people who don't. So when reading the stuff, I couldn't see that from there, and I think we do need to make some allowances.
David, we have made it. If I can address that very quickly because of time, it's a very, very good point. And it's one that we've thought about. There is going to be an accessibility form that is going to be sent out with the pack on the 1st of April. And then the board will make special arrangements for those cases who have difficulties with the internet. Some of that will be pairing, where a staff member will pair with an individual, and others may be other arrangements depending on personal circumstances. But the key point is every deputy has access to an email account. And what I understand is every deputy has had no difficulty attending meetings previously, but people using a secure website may be more complex. So we will make a special effort at the board staff level to deal with those people. And that means that if you think you may have an accessibility issue, complete the form and return it to the board staff as soon as possible. It's very important that this goes smoothly, and there's been a lot of thought that has gone into it. I think we have time for one more question, so I'll ask Joy Wolf if she could ask her question.
Yeah, because some of constitutional rules seem to be being broken at the moment, is there any way that this could be open to manipulation or to difficulties? I am concerned that this would be very straightforward and very controlled, and that further constitutional rules are not broken.
The first point is no constitutional rules are being broken if we adopt this resolution. That's very important. That's why the Constitution Committee has insisted upon a proper resolution coming to the plenary. So if we take these steps, then we are in line with the Constitution. If we have an election without this resolution, then we would be breaking rules. So that's the first thing. The second thing is everything we are doing is as closely as possible aligned with the timeframes and the practices as if it were a physical meeting. And the third point is this is being conducted by an independent company that runs these digital elections for large organisations and large businesses. I'm not sure if Gillian or Judy want to add anything about UK Engage, but they are. If you hop on the internet, you'll see they're a very well regarded company in this area.
Can I just say I wasn't suggesting that this was constitutional rules, it's other constitutional rules that are being broken.
No, we're very aware of that, and the digital voting issue, and because it's not provided for in the existing constitution, is not straightforward for us. You know, we all are aware of that, and if this secure platform works well, it may be that I can see in the next triennial it being adopted for what I'd call more contentious matters.
Thank you.
Shall we, Marie, do you want us to move on now? Or?
Well, Brian, could you ask
Brian,
your
sorry,
question concisely if you can? You're on mute, Brian.
Unmute. I wanted to ask you, does the system allow a person to say, I didn't vote, and you say, well, you have, or for the person to be able to re-vote if they say they haven't received it? I want to avoid a situation where 10 people say I didn't vote. I'm not introducing a technicality.
No, I understand.
I'm just saying a way of not allowing that to happen.
Absolutely.
Fair enough question.
It's a very fair. It is a very fair question, Brian. What will happen is that everyone will receive an email. You will then get a unique code. You then log on to the website, independently administered. You then enter the data that you've been emailed. Everyone's code is different, and then you can lodge a secret ballot. Now, if you do not lodge the ballot by 2 p.m. on the 10th of May, then it will be taken that you are not voting, just as you would in a general election. If you have a technical problem, you need to raise that with the office before 2 p.m. on the 10th of May. And I would say to you, vote on the 9th of May when we're in the meeting on the 9th of May. Don't leave it till 1:30 on the 10th of May, because we're not extending the time beyond 2 p.m. If you've got a problem at 1:30 on the 10th of May, if we go over at 2 p.m, then your vote will not be counted. So it is.
Can you have a non-voting section? What I don't want is you to have to look for ghosts. In other words,
yes, you don't want to repeat. I get that. You're being very kind. I think there is a way that we can do that if people want to mark abstain. I will check that point. And if there is an abstain, if there isn't an abstain button, then we will add that in.
But it's not doing that to encourage people to abstain. I'm merely doing it so we don't chase those.
No, fair enough.
It's a very fair point you make, Brian. I agree with you.
Even I didn't know the exact timing, so thank you, Jeremy. And I will ask the staff team if we can perhaps do a training session for anybody that's unsure of it, because it's new to all of us.
That's great.
So I'm not sure. There are no more questions. Because it's the election, I think it's best if it's formally seconded by Karen Newman, the Vice Chair of the Constitution Committee. I'm not sure if Karen wants to say anything. She hasn't indicated that she does. So If there are no more questions or comments, can I put the motion?
And just to confirm, when you've all voted, we're going to wait 5 minutes until after the vote. So I will move on to the next subject, which will be new organisations to join the board. And when we have a break, I will ask Judy to put up on the screen the outcome. So we're going to be waiting just in case there are any problems.
And just to be clear, the reason why we're waiting for 5 minutes is so we don't have a repeat of what happened last time. If you have a technical issue with voting, you must communicate that to Judy Silcoff within the 5 minutes privately. If you don't communicate it, then we will not look into it any further. So you need to, if you're having a problem, you've got 5 minutes. I could see Richard has raised a question.
Right, are we having questions or points of order? Because we're going to run out of time for the meeting if we carry on. Are these questions or points of order? I think Gary's hinting it's a point of order.
I think it was no. You said a question. Gary asked a question.
Well, the trouble is we want to ask lots of questions, but we are going to be very, very pushed for time. So if your question is essential, right, Gary. Well, we've now got 3. So if 3 people are saying they're essential, let's hear it. But we are going to be very pushed for time. So can you take all the questions at once, and then perhaps Jeremy can give an answer. Richard, Gary and Robert.
Hi, Richard, you're on.
Could the other 2 unmute so you're ready?
Richard, you're on.
Right, Richard's currently, okay, unfortunately,
Gary, do you want to go ahead
Gary.
now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, no worries.
Yeah, very quick question. Will there be, in addition to Colin as the returning officer, will there be scrutineers?
Yes, there will be scrutineers. Each presidential candidate will be entitled to appoint 1 scrutineer. So at present, Marie and Jonathan Newman are declared candidates. I've briefed both of them privately regarding this issue. They will both be entitled to appoint scrutineers, and if anyone wants to run for vice president, then a similar courtesy will be extended.
Robert.
Yeah, my point of order was that Judy Silcott's name was not in the chat, but now I see she's changed her name from Board of Deputies to Judy Silcott.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Richard, I think was the last person. If you're on now,
we'll have to come back to
Richard.
Have to come
back. Richard, if you have a question, drop me an email. Drop me an. There we go.
Sorry,
Richard's
Richard.
I'm only going to...
Oh, no, he's gone again. Right, we've tried. Okay.
Let's put the vote, please.
Scrutineers. I was just going to ask about scrutineers.
Oh, okay. Scrutineers. There will be scrutineers for each candidate. I have told Marie and Jonathan already that because they are the only declared candidates at this point.
Right, we're now waiting for the vote. Thank you. And we have an abstain. Thank you. Just to let you know, so we're transparent about this, unfortunately, a couple of people, the under 35 observers, should have been put in the waiting room and they weren't. So when the vote is in, we're going to see how close it is, and if it would have made no difference, if it's a very high vote yes, that it will, subject to confirmation from Jeremy Share, not be an issue. But if the vote is close, we would have to look at that, and I would take advice from Jeremy. So I just wanted to point that out to you. Irene, do you have a point of order? No. So could people be very careful? Thank you so much, about accidentally putting their hands up. That's very appreciated. So we will wait to see what the vote is, and then in a suitable break, I will give the outcome. Irene's hand's gone up again, so I assume it's a computer issue and not a point of order. Perhaps Judy can perhaps assist there. Can I come on to the next item? Propose new organisations to join the Board of Deputies. Can I just be very, very clear that the deadline for somebody for being a deputy to be able to vote in the elections is the 31st of March, and no organisation today that is admitted to the Board of Deputies will have any deputy that is entitled to vote, because the Constitution Committee is not going to meet until after Pesach to actually look at anybody's submissions. So I just want to be very, very clear. We are looking at admitting organisations today, but no organisation that is admitted today will have a deputy that is entitled to vote in the forthcoming election. And I was very, very, I have to say, and so were the staff team, very disappointed to read the article in the Jewish team because news and in the Jewish Chronicle, because the communal engagement team have worked so hard to actually bring on new organisations. It's very distressing for them if people think there's some sort of underlying motive. And more than the 6 today, we've also got a backup of lots more organisations that had applied before, but because we were looking at the Constitution and that was taking up all of our time, we didn't have enough time to have organisations coming for voting. So I just want to be clear again, any organisation that is admitted today, no deputy is going to be voting in the elections that are coming up shortly. So as long as that is absolutely clear. So the first organisation that would like to join the board and will present is the London Jewish Forum. And I just want to declare that on the executive, there are 3 members of the executive that are trustees of the London Jewish Forum, and that is Andrew Gilbert, myself, and Gary Mond. And there are also 9 deputies that are also trustees of the London Jewish Forum, and that organisation is also operated as a joint venture between the Board of Deputies and the Jewish Leadership Council. Now, I do want to go on to have this discussion, and there are now a number of hands up. So we have to get to the point where people can make a point of order at a specified time, because otherwise we're not going to be able to move on. So I will take these points of order, but after that, can we be clear that points of order, can you please put them at an easier time, because we're going to be breaking all the time. Irene, I can see that you're telling me that you've got no point of order. And again, perhaps Judy can help remove the hand for you or from the screen. So we've got Jerry Lewis. Is this a point of order?
May I just ask your guidance, please, Madam President? I wanted to make a general point about all 6 applicants. If I could do so before you consider them all individually, I'd be grateful. Please guide me.
I thank you very much, but can we please have points of order, not points, because it's not going to be fair for people to comment. Can you ask a question after the first one? If it's a point of order, I will hear it. Ruth Hart, do you have a point of order? And may I say to Ruth, happy birthday, because I understand it's your birthday today, Ruth, but I still can't hear you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm here. Does it mean if the London Jewish Forum were to join us that anyone who is already a deputy would effectively have 2 votes?
No, of course not. No. And I have to say, Ruth, the email that you sent around to a large number of deputies has caused quite a few concern that you wanted to send the Jewish Chronicle article, because I've been told by quite a few people it certainly doesn't mean that, and no deputy was going to be admitted before the election, and it would have been good if anybody had perhaps asked. And of course the board couldn't respond because the offices of the board shut at 1 o'clock on Friday. Dori, do you have a point of order, or Robert, please?
I was just thinking, I think that question been asked, how can we have deputies already on it, on the London Jewish Forum? How do we vote on this thing? This is the question. It looks tricky, but maybe you have an answer.
Thank you. Robert?
Just on 2 points. One, I'm a member of Finchley Reform, a deputy for Finchley Reforms, and I've got a member of Colneffish. I don't have 2 votes. But my suggestion, Chair, in order to stop all this, is that we raise a different symbol for a point of order from an intervention. Can't we raise our X no or tick yes as a point of order?
Well, I'd agree that, because we need to carry on. Don't want to not hear anybody.
Please tell us which to do.
Otherwise, I'm going to have to ask for points of order to be put through to Jeremy Sher.
Chair, I'm suggesting that you ask for people to do a different reaction, like this, or
that's good in practice, but unfortunately, from experience, it's not always easy in the first time when we do something for people to pick it up. I've spoken, Ruth, before. Joy, do you have a point of order? I can't hear Joy.
To be honest, I'm not sure if it's a point of order or not.
Well, a point of order, just to be clear, it's a very good question, Joy. A point of order is saying that something in the Constitution has been broken. It's not a point of opinion or I would like to say something. So a point of order is a constitutional breach. So if anyone's got a point of order, I need to know what it is, because otherwise we're not going to be able to get on with the meeting. But I understand the point that's been raised, which is a very fair one, that anybody who is a trustee in London Jewish Forum, and I will read out who those trustees are, that they shouldn't be allowed to, in effect, vote twice. I think that's a very fair suggestion. So I'm going to read out the trustees, and these people, I will ask Judy Silkoff to take them into the waiting room, which will include myself at that, or I'll have to stay here, but I won't vote. So that there isn't a double, if you like, a double vote. So the trustees of the London Jewish Forum are Adrian Cohen, Andrew Gilbert, David Mendoza-Wolfson, Deborah Cohen, Ella Rose, Gary Mond, myself, Sophie Dunoff, and Laura Marks. So you can see this is very much a cross-communal initiative where deputies have had the potential to have a lot of involvement. I am going to ask people to go, please, to Jeremy Sher after this, if these aren't points of order, because I can't run the meeting. And it's just going to... So do you have, Rob, a point of order? Right, what is your point of order, please? Unfortunately, you're muted. Right, I'm really sorry. Right. Well, Rob, you're
hello. Right, Rob Sassoon, under 35 observer for the S&P Sephardi community, soon to be deputy for the S&P Sephardi community in June. My question is, I don't understand why you're excluding all of these deputies from being able to vote when you know, deputies will be involved with a number of organisations that may all have involvement with the board. They may indeed be trustees of those organisations, but if a new organisation wishes to join the board, I don't see why you and the other deputies that you mentioned should have any less of a say than any other deputy as to the suitability of that organisation for entry. When for example, we considered Harif at a recent meeting, we didn't ask Lawrence Julius to go into the waiting room while we voted on the organisation that's run by his wife, and I don't see why we should ask trustees of the London Jewish Forum not to vote as to whether or not to admit the London Jewish Forum?
I understand. I mean, personally, I can understand that the point was raised, and I'm happy not to vote. I'll tell you what, we'll get on. We'll let the presentation commence, and I think that this should be something for Jeremy Share to consider with the Constitution Committee. As I say, I'm very happy not to vote. It's an unusual one because, as I say, it's operated as a joint venture between the Board of Deputies and the Jewish Leadership Council, and it's got 3 members of the executive that are trustees. So I'm very happy either way, but I do understand the point that has been raised. Adrian, do you have a point of order, please? You're on mute.
Yes, I do. I think there's a bit of confusion here. I think the original point being made was that if the London Jewish Forum becomes part of the Board of Deputies, that deputies who are trustees of London Jewish Forum wouldn't have more than 1 vote. And of course, that's right. If the London Jewish Forum only becomes a member of the Board of Deputies, it will get a deputy. It was nothing to do with whether or not we can vote on this actual resolution. And I don't see any reason why deputies who happen to be trustees of London Jewish Forum, as long as they've declared their interest, I don't see why they can't vote.
Well, I've got an outcome from Jeremy Share now. He says it's fine for London Jewish Forum trustees to vote. The issue is that no board staff can be deputies and there can't be multiple votes. These are the final 2 points of order because we really will not be finishing the meeting at all. Ruth, do you have another point of order?
Yes, for the avoidance of doubt, it was not me that wrote the JC.
I didn't. Thank you, Ruth. That's not a point of order. You didn't write to the JC. I accept what you say, but you did send the article to a very large number of deputies, and some of them have said they didn't want their email details and have contacted me about it being used in that way. And people feel that it damages the reputation of the board. And at the end of the day, we're all here to be deputies representing our communities. So that is what Jeremy Share has said. If anyone else wants to make any comment on the voting, I would have been happy not to vote, but Jeremy Share has said that there isn't a conflict and London Jewish Forum trustees can vote. So I will accept the recommendation then of the Constitution Chair, but I'd like to hand over now to Andrew Gilbert, who will be presenting for the London Jewish Forum. He will have 2.5 minutes to present, and then deputies can have, we'll have to have 1 minute for questions. I did want longer, but we're just not going to run out of time for the meeting, and I really want to get on to President's statements and divisional reports. Andrew, over to you.
Thank you, President. The London Jewish Forum was an initiative of former board president Henry Grunwald and very much mentored by his successor, Vivian Weinman. We've also been strengthened by our current president, Marie van der Zyl, whose involvement has been supportive since the Gold is Green Together campaign in 2015. The London Jewish Forum was set up to focus on London by the board and the JLC when the community had major difficulties with Ken Livingstone as mayor. We've always been a mix of deputies ad personam with other communal figures and those who specialise in local government. Over recent years, we've been strengthened with we're a fresh group of trustees, amongst them 9 deputies from across the political and religious spectrum, and more importantly, a joint working plan agreed with the board and the JLC to cover relations with local and regional government in London, Herts and Essex. For many years, we've run hustings, particularly our famous mayoral hustings, next edition on Zoom next month, a manifesto where we were the first common organisation to launch a manifesto for local government, Jewish Councillors Network, and we launched and now work in partnership on councillor training networks, councillor training conferences. Over the last 2 years, we've set up increased localised work in the pandemic. We've become a key partner to London's Resilience Board structure, representing our community on all aspects of the emergency, from general engagement, community cohesion, volunteering, mortality management, care of the elderly, bereavement counselling, signposting, mental health, disproportionality of COVID deaths, effects on under 18 travel when TfL subsidies were threatened, use of buildings in lockdown, working with the faith engagement team at Scotland Yard, building relations with directors of public health across London and Herts, working with council leaders, working on combating vaccination resistance, working as an anchor institution on the new London Recovery Programme, whose 9 missions are focused on building strong communities, a new deal for young people, mental health and well-being, digital access for all, healthy food and healthy weight, one I certainly need to be involved in, a robust safety net, high streets for all, helping London into good work, and a Green New Deal. Most recently, we've been focused also on Hertfordshire. We're building area groups with local communities, building a Jewish councillors network, running Hastings next month, working towards a Hertfordshire Jewish Council seminar. And we've connected, introduced and set up meetings between leading Hertfordshire figures working on creation of a new town with Jewish housing developers. Our work is diverse, backed up by a staff team from the board and the JLC. We raise our programmatic budget directly. Many deputies have been involved in activities locally or thematically, and those in London, Herts and Essex so far and uninvolved. It'd be great to be in contact with you. Our key local partners are in the chairs and rabbis of local synagogues and the leaders of the common local organisations. We don't really duplicate anyone else's work. We do unique work, and this formalises a situation where we've worked in partnership with the board for many years. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a number of questions. So to try and make sure we don't waste time, I'll give the order for people asking the questions. And if you could come off mute, I'd be very grateful so we don't have a delay in between. So Paul Edlin, Irene Mansfield, Jerry Lewis, Jonathan Brodie and Anthony Bolkover. Thank you. If you can all come off mute, and Lawrence Julius. One minute clock to go up, please. Paul, please start.
Thank you. Paul Edlin, Glasgow Jewish Representative Council. My question is relating to the payment of the representation fee when the Board of Deputies are funding the London Jewish Forum. It seems rather strange that the Board of Deputies, jointly with the Jewish Leadership Council, are funding the London Jewish Forum, yet somebody has to pay this representation fee of £600 plus per annum. Who will be paying that fee? It seems ridiculous if the board are funding the London Jewish Forum. Why is that money coming back to the board for a representation? Sounds a bit to me like double dipping. I don't like the feel of it. My organisation sends 2 deputies. We're a small community. We pay fully for it. And I don't like this fact that it's heavily subsidised by the Board of Deputies, who are, and the London Jewish Forum are rumoured to be considering withdrawing their subsidy. So, I mean, I'd like that question answered, please.
Thank you. All the Board of Deputies contributes are delegated staff. The board does not pay any of our programmatic money, and therefore our representational fee would not be paid for by the Board of Deputies. The only aspect that's paid by either the board or the JLC are staff. The board delegates its staff. Daniel Koski is paid for by the JLC. Our programmatic budget is totally self-fundraised and is totally separate, and we would be paying our delegate fee not from any money from the board or the JLC.
Irene, you were next. Irene, Jerry, Jonathan, Anthony, and then Carol has put her hand up, and Josh Lee.
Yes, I'd like to look at the whole criteria of whether organisations can become affiliated to the Board of Deputies. It seems to me that in line with other organisations, voluntary organisations, there should be a certain criterion for membership of a certain minimum number of Jewish members. And this is not directed against any particular organisation. And personally, I think that the London Jewish Forum is an excellent organisation in which I take part. But I think that I wonder about organisations like the Sadeh Farm, which represents a very small number of people. And these are self-appointed delegates and have no accountability to anybody else. So I wonder whether we oughtn't to be looking at the criterion or the criteria for joining the board as an affiliated organization.
I think you've got the gist of that question, Andrew.
I don't think it's really aimed at us. I mean, the fact is we've got area groups in each of, across boroughs, we've got all across London, and we involve all the communities in each of that work. For example, in Haringey, where Irene's from, we work very closely with the rabbi and with the chair of the community. We've had meetings with MPs, with Hastings in their synagogue. We've also organised with meetings with the Director of Public Health and with the Chief Executive of Haringey. It's not done on a sort of like a membership basis. We're an organisation that is providing functionality. So I don't think this is relevant to us in this way. Thank you.
Sorry, apologies. Who was next? I think it was Jerry, and then Jonathan.
Hampstead Synagogue, Jerry Lewis. I've got to make a generalised point first, and then a point to Andrew. The generalised point is under Constitution point 454. It says you've got to have elections, and I'm looking at the list of all the 6 groups. The Jamie say they are going to appoint a deputy. That's out of order. The Vegetarian Society say they're going to have a few hundred voters. We don't know who they are. London Jewish Forum say they're just through their board. Like to know who. Maccabi, I've just advised everybody, Maccabi are already a member of the board. They don't need to reapply. The Friendship Circle, they had their membership. They don't say how many. And the Mitzvah Day, those relevant, we don't know who. Direct question for Andrew. You say that there's no professional staff to be a deputy. You also say in the report there's no staff employed 2020, 2019. What's the situation? Employed or not?
Sorry, our staff are delegated from the 2 organisations. We therefore, London Jewish Forum has got no staff costs because the staff are either paid for by the JLC or by the board, but on a delegated basis. So we act, and our programmatic budget is what we fundraise.
Can I just make the point that the Constitution Committee have considered all of these applications? They don't just all come on to be voted for today. They've all gone through all of the matters about the criteria, whether they meet them, and then ultimately it's up to deputies whether they want to vote for them. But we have many organisations that have trustee boards, and election comes from the trustee board seeking elections, and that's quite different to a situation where we've got for synagogues. I think we can probably only have a few more questions. Jonathan Brody's been very patient. I suggest we ask you, Jonathan, and Anthony Bolkover, can you unmute?
Jonathan Brody, Kingsbury Synagogue. You supplied the Articles of Association of the forum, and it mentions amongst the objectives specifically for the serve about advocating for community in London, but there's also in the documents and what you talked about, you also mentioned Essex and Hertfordshire. I just wonder, are you actually in breach of your Articles of Association in doing that? And the second thing is that the application document refers to a diverse trustee board, but as we've heard, it's got 9 deputies, 3 of whom are on the executive. I mean, the list, there's some of them, there is a association of the body, and there's no one who seems to come from sort of south of the river. I just wonder how diverse a body is it, and are we actually enhancing the diversity of opinions and the representative community sectors of the board by the forum joining? Thank you.
We've put in an application to change the Articles Association and to include Essex and Hertfordshire, and there's been no back on that. So that was put in as a request with the memorandum of understanding. In terms of South London, we've got area groups in South East London, in Croydon and Sutton, in Merton and Wandsworth, and Lambeth Southwark, and also in South West London. We've organised meetings with, I think, 7 MPs, various council leaders, Paul Scully, the Mayor of London. We've done a lot with Nightingale, and we've been heavily involved in all sorts of things in South London. If you ask any of the communities there, they will of course tell you how much we've been involved in on the ground. I've visited a series of synagogues in South London, and we've worked very, 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 very closely in South London. In terms of Essex, we've got the chair of the Essex Jewish Community Council, who covers Redbridge and Essex as one of our members, and we've got amongst our trustees, there are people over a width of geographies, but I do take your point. We're always looking at the geography aspect. Thank you.
Yes, because that would have to be agreed by the Board of Deputies, and the London Jewish Forum obviously relates to London. Could I ask Jeremy Sher, because I think we're running out of time for questions, perhaps if he can help by just to confirm the process, please, of the Constitution Committee when looking at these.
Josh, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, Jeremy, I think you are on mute.
Hi
there.
Hi everyone. Just to give you a sense, all of these applications, some of them date back 6 months, and they've been deferred because London Jewish Forum being top of the list, in fact, they were deferred because of the ongoing constitutional debate and the need to prioritise that. That's point one. Point two, when an application comes in, they are reviewed by all 6 members of the Constitution Committee. We put questions to each organisation. We review the Constitution Committee records. Dr. Vicky Harris is an accountant. She looks at their accounts as well. And then we often go through multiple rounds of due diligence, one of which in the London Jewish Forum's case was this issue around its relationship with the Board of Deputies. And one of the points that we've made is no Board of Deputy staff member can be the deputy on behalf of the London Jewish Forum. It's absolutely a red line for us. You'll be aware that there are multiple organisations that are already members that are not membership-based organisations. I represent one. I am the deputy for the UJIA, which is one of the largest community organisations in the Jewish community. That reflects the changing nature of the British Jewish community, that most members of the Jewish community do not align with an established synagogue. They align with organisations. The general policy of the Constitution Committee is so long as an organisation meets the criteria, i.e. it's pursuing a Jewish object, it's properly governed, it has proper accounts, it's registered with the Charities Commission, as all of these organisations are, then we will put it forward, and then it is a matter of policy for the plenary whether to admit it or not. And there are debates. We've seen a couple over the last few years, but I just want to assure you, things aren't just being put forward. In some of these cases, there's been quite a lot of discussion about them. And in all of these cases, I think they've come through the board's outreach program, the board staff outreach program. That's a very important point. These have all come through because the board staff are doing such a good job expanding the Jewish community's engagement and levels of activity. I don't think there's anything else I need to say on this, Marie.
Thank you. I'm really sorry, everybody. I'm going to have to only have one more question, and I'm going to take someone who's not spoken. I've written down all of your names to give you priority for something else. So I think Josh has actually been waiting the longest, and then we're going to move on to the vote. Josh? So I'm really sorry because we were just not get on. I've got everyone else's names, and some of you have spoken before. Josh?
Sure, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Not sure I was waiting the longest, but
okay, I will go on to Anthony if you like, because it's either one or two of you.
Let me finish my question in that case. I wasn't planning on asking a question until I heard Andrew's speech. Thank you for listing all the engaging work that the London Jewish Forum does. Many accolades there. But before listing such acclaimed achievements, you noted that your trustees and members draw the majority of their membership from deputies already. And as you noted, not only are 90% of your trustees already deputies, but you were set up by the board and the JLC. In light of that, if the purpose of the board is to increase representation of those not already represented, why do you need further representation?
Good question. Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. We don't need further representation, but we're working in lots of areas that need work on reporting back, working in harmony. We're not 90% with the board. We do a lot very much separately, and we dovetail. We don't, and we bolster each other between our work and the board's work. And I don't think there's an overlap here. We're working with a lot of people outside the board. As I said, most of the people, our work is with chairs, rabbis of communities, with councils, with the GLA, the mayor. And it's a matter of connecting what we do. I don't think there's anything contradictory at all in that. Thank you.
And I've made sure that the board is represented, which is why I'm on there. So I'm very sorry to Carol, Mervyn, Deanna, Anthony, and Lawrence. You will get priority. Those of you that haven't spoken on the next question that you want to ask. I'm really sorry, but we're just not going to have time. It's very difficult, and I'm very pleased you want to all ask so many questions. Can we please put the vote up? And then when we've done this, we'll get the vote from the electronic voting. So could the vote go up, please, deputies, for the London Jewish Forum? And let's remember, we're all part of the same community. We're all here to support each other. We're all volunteers. We all want to do the best by the community. That's what it's all about. The under 35 observers, I think, will be asked to wait in the waiting room.
Yep, we're just doing that now, and once
Thank
everyone's
you.
in there, we'll put the vote up.
Thank you. We're going down slightly, so it looks like we're nearly there. Is the vote coming up soon? Thank you. The vote's down now there. Thank you. Could we please have the result for the vote for the electronic voting, please? Before we move on to the next. So we have 90% yes, 7% no, 3% abstain. We didn't remove the under 35 observers, but as there's so few in number, that's not going to affect the vote. And I'm sure Jeremy Sher would let me know if he thought otherwise, because that is an overwhelming vote. So 90%. So the electronic voting resolution is approved. Does Simone Class have a point of order, please? Your hand's up. Is it a point of order, please?
It's to say I wasn't given the form to vote just now.
I'm very, very sorry. Can you take that up with Judy? I'm really sorry. Thank you.
I've taken it up with her.
Thank you. Right, thank you. We obviously do need to look at perhaps why this is happening with a couple of people. But from the situation last time, we have to carry on and look at how many people this has happened to. So I'm very grateful for people that tell us if they didn't get the vote, but it was still an overwhelming vote. And if Jeremy Sher considers otherwise, he will tell me. Right, could we please carry on to the next presentation to be given by Ashley Lerner, who is the CEO for Maccabi. And I am aware that Maccabi used to very much be a part of the board of deputies. So I want to say thank you for your time. Is Ashley there?
I am here.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Would you like to let us know about Maccabi? You've got 2.5 minutes, and I hope you won't mind answering a couple of questions from the deputies.
Absolutely. Good morning, all. Thank you very much for consideration of Maccabi GB. Yeah, in answer, Maccabi GB, previously, I think it was about 15 years ago that we held a position in deputies, and I think the Constitution Committee deemed such a time had passed that it was appropriate to reapply again. And as an organisation, we have moved on considerably over the last decade. We put ourselves now from what was predominantly a youth-based organisation to being one of a communal organisation that engages the whole of the community, from the youngest to the oldest. I think maybe you'll be aware, or you'll know of Maccabi as sport, or synonymous for sport. Hopefully you had a chance to see my briefing paper, and you'll see that sport is still a fundamental part of the work that we do, but actually there are quite a lot more that maybe you're not aware. We break it down into sport, community, and informal education. Obviously, within the sport realms, at the peak of the work that we do is the international games and the Maccabea. But at the grassroots, we work with young people in their schools, delivering PE lessons and inter-school tournaments, and a whole range of sport activity for Sport for All. Within the community organisations, we're proud that we partner over 100 different community organisations, and our crowning glory is the Community Fun Run, which hopefully many of you have participated in previously. In 2019, pre-COVID, which was our biggest event, we had 80 community organisations and schools representing a wide section, a cross-section of the whole of the community come together, and with 7,500 members of the community participate. Within informal education, through our partnership with CST, our Streetwise program is in its 15th year this year. And we work with young people to enhance their personal safety and personal development. And within our Streetwise and Stand Up project, which is our interfaith program, we see 30,000 young people a year teaching about anti-discrimination and informal education through that way. We have our Yellow Candle project, which I know the board are very much a part of, and I'm sure through your deputies and your communities you are too. I think what I would end is saying that Maccabi GB represents a broad range of demographic. We would probably look at a different demographic that may not always be the ones that would go to synagogue groups, but they would come to us because of the community engagement or the sport activity. And that's why we're really keen to be a part of the board, and hopefully we can bring some added value to your discussions as well.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Thank you. Gid Smith, can you say your name and where you're from to ask your question? 1 minute, please, on the clock. Thank you so much, Gid. You're on mute.
Again. Hello. Thank you very much. Gideon Smith, Hampstead Garden Suburb. I wasn't very aware of Maccabi's activities until my kids went on the Junior Maccabea a couple of years ago. What truly struck me was how this organisation was reaching out to segments of the community I really wasn't aware of. I would thoroughly support them joining the board. Ashley, would you agree?
Yes, 100%. Thank you. I think a lot of people, they will come to our organisation because sport may be the way that we do, but we use sport as the prism to engage in Jewish identity in connection to Israel and enhancing one's own personal development and also their British values as well. So 100%, I would agree with what you say there. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Do any other deputies have some questions? What about Carol, Mervyn, Diana, Anthony or Lawrence? No more questions? Well, thank you. In that case, I'm going to ask, would Judy ask the under 35 observers, please, to leave, and we'll have the vote. Apologies that it takes a little time. I don't know why we've got the clock. We were expecting the vote. sorry. Okay, then there's something up with my vote. Then I apologise. I've just got a clock and no vote. So it happens even to me. Thank you. Thank you. We will hear all the organisations and then we will have the outcome at the end. So next, can we please welcome FD Brooke, CEO from the Friendship Circle, and we also have Mimi Lyons, Operations, and Tim Dempsey, a trustee. I'm not sure which one of you is going to talk. So whoever it is, could you make yourself known? And we'd very much like to hear from you.
I don't think everyone was in the room when you explained that. So do you want to just repeat that you've invited SD to present?
Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Can I just say again, I've invited SD Brooke, CEO of the Friendship Circle, to speak next.
Hi, sorry, I didn't hear my name. I just heard you say.
Oh no, that's all right. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me this morning. My name is Esther Brooke and I'm the Programme Director of the Friendship Circle, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about us. We've been running for almost 13 years. Our primary aim is to help people with disabilities make friends and integrate into the Manchester Jewish community. We provide an exciting packed calendar of integrated programmes and activities all year round, helping our members gain confidence, acquire new skills and build social connections, from art club and dance to discussion groups and trips out, pub nights and singing groups to Shabbat meals and parties. The list goes on. There's something for absolutely everyone. I would really encourage everyone to have a look at our website for an idea of the different programs and initiatives that we run. Most importantly, our programs, and especially our one-to-one buddy program, enable our members to forge lasting friendships. And together with our vast network of over 100 volunteers, we inspire a culture of understanding and acceptance, helping to transform attitudes towards people of all abilities in our society. We've created a warm and loving community within a community that supports our 130 members and their families in so many ways and gives them the tools to break boundaries and challenge stereotypes. We work to educate and encourage a culture of inclusion and understanding, which has hugely positive effects on the whole community. Over the last 12 months, our members, just like everyone else, have really struggled with social isolation through the pandemic. We've done our utmost to provide each and every one of them with emotional and practical support in ways that we would never have imagined. We worked round the clock to organise virtual programmes, home deliveries of packs and activities, and phone buddies that have been going strong for the past year. We've made sure that all of our members have been able to celebrate the Jewish calendar, and sometimes with more excitement and meaning as before. I believe that to be truly representative, everyone must be represented. Communities locally and nationally are stronger when everyone is heard, and that people of all abilities should have the opportunity to make a difference and be included in important conversations and decision making. We've worked with local government and organisations to do just this. We are not here to only speak for our members and champion inclusion, but most importantly, to give them the opportunity to represent themselves. And that's why we want to join the Board of Deputies, to give our members and people with a disability nationally a voice in the Jewish community. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I just clarify for everybody that the Friendship Circle is to support people with disabilities. So it is very, very important that that's understood in the context of the organisation. Thank you. Are you happy to take some questions, Esty? Thank you very much. So could we have, and can you come off mute so that we don't have the space? It will be Paul Hart first, Joy Wolf, and then David Benson.
Hi, Esty. I have a brother with Down syndrome. Do you help Down syndrome people as well?
Yes, absolutely. Many of our members have got Down syndrome. It's actually Down Syndrome Awareness Day today, if anyone didn't know. But yes, absolutely. The heart and soul of our organisations and the people who are the heart of the parties are our Down syndrome members. So it's most of the people that we help actually are people with learning disabilities as opposed to physical disabilities, but we do help both.
Thank you. Joy, and then David.
Esty, you're an absolutely fantastic organisation, and I really endorse all that you do. You talk about your members. What about people who are not members but would benefit from you, and how do they know about it, and how could they become members?
So I say members, it's not a paid membership. I just mean, I don't like to say the word clients or participants. We call everyone members, including volunteers. So we help anyone who needs us. We have some volunteers who are maybe on the edge of either being a volunteer or a member. There's no specific criteria for being part of the Friendship Circle. And we've had people turn up at events but we are not on our list. So we're happy to help absolutely anyone. And our information's on our website. And if anyone gives me contact, give me a call, then I'm happy to chat through how they can get help.
Thank you. And if we can make sure we've got the clock up, we've got David and then Flora.
Thank you, David Benson, Central Synagogue, Birmingham. Esty, you're the best thing I've heard this morning, all week, in fact. Absolutely fantastic. It sounds a wonderful, wonderful organisation, and I really wish you all the very, very best. One question I do have, though, is how are you managing for funding? Where is your funding coming from? And probably you're struggling like all other charities. And just let us know a little bit about that, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Our funding's private, mainly private donors, and we've been that way since we started. Over COVID, we did have some help from grants from local authorities. There was a lot of emergency grants that came out. We've had a few grants over the years, things like the National Lottery and things like that. But in general, we have incredible patrons that support us yearly, and we're funded by private donors. Obviously, COVID was a really difficult period, as it was for all charities. We had to furlough many of our staff, but we got help and we got through it. We cut costs, we went online, we got through it. Like I hope everybody will.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did say, Deanna, so 2 last questions. Flora Flank was first and then Deanna Levine. Deanna, if you can come off mute to be ready. Thank you. Flora.
Thank you so much. Esty, amazing, vital, essential work. I endorse everything that was said previously. My question is, are you involved with other organisations such as Ravenswood, Jamie? I mean, you seem that you can give to them as well as they can give to you. Are you in partnership with them? I think that's very important.
So we work obviously only in Manchester, so it's a little bit more difficult to work in partnership with organisations that are London-based. I have met with Norwood before, Kishore Ron, I've come to London. We work really closely with Langdon, that's obviously Manchester and London. But we do concentrate on efforts working together with Manchester organisations, because that will probably give us the most practical benefits. But we work really closely. We don't, there's no crossover of our services with any other organisations. Even in London, what we do is very unique because we're focused only on the social aspect. So we work very closely and we're happy to work with absolutely anyone. We work in partnership with many organisations in Manchester.
Thank you. And Deanna, and apologies for before.
That's all right. Thank you very much. Well, that was a very interesting presentation, Esty, and it's very wide-ranging and most impressive. I do see and feel strongly that there will be it will be widely supported. I hope so anyway, by the board. But my question to you, and I'm not sure if it sounds a bit discriminatory, I would like to see, people with disabilities, whichever type of disability it is, being on the board, I'm aware of at least, well, I'm not aware of too many, put it that way, on the board. And I think it would be a wonderful thing if that could be achieved. But I don't know who you may have in mind, whether it would be somebody with disabilities or somebody who's a volunteer, and so on. So if you could please enlighten me about that, I'd be most grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's a great question. When I was approached by the staff at the Board of Deputies, we came to the conclusion that we would like one of our members with a disability to be the deputy for us. And I'm not 100% clear on how the whole workings, and I'm learning it all now, and I'm sure I'll learn a lot more. But I'm not going to represent the Friendship Circle. It's going to be one of our members with a disability, and they'll have as much support as they want or they need. We'll be there in the background, but it will be one of our members representing the rest of the Friendship Circle. I hope that answers your question. That's the plan.
Thank you for the answers to your questions. I'm sorry, Denise and Michael, I'll give you priority next time, but we're going to have to move on. Thank you very much for the answers to those questions.
Thank you.
Could I please, and thank you, deputies, for your questions. They're all very good questions. Could I please ask the team to ask the under 35 observers to go into the waiting room? And just to let deputies know, there will be given permission for a disabled deputy to have a supporter to assist them, so they wouldn't be expected to struggle to any on-site meeting or any even online meeting on their own. I think that the vote's gone up. I'm going to again say that I do not have the vote. I've only got a clock. So I presume the voting poll has not gone up for me either, but I presume you've all got one. I can see nods, thank you. But just to let the board's team know that I do not have a voting poll. And I did have the first few. And I will photograph it. Thank you. And if anyone else doesn't get the voting poll, could they tell me or tell the team whether, like me, they get the clock instead, because that might be something we can then look at, because I've noticed that I've had the clock both times. Thank you very much for the last presentation. Next up, please, is Mitzvah Day. And could I please ask the CEO, Georgina Bai, if she would please make the presentation. So welcome, Georgina.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's really wonderful to join you this morning and to present Mitzvah Day. It's just great to see so many familiar faces of amazing volunteers here, so it's really a privilege. Mitzvah Day was established in 2008 as a charity by Laura Marks and is now really an established part of the fabric of British Jewish community life. We've had a really long-standing relationship with the Board of Deputies. We've worked closely together, and I know the board has long done Mitzvah Day projects, even this year when we had to move online. So it's been a relationship where, you know, we work with so many communities around the UK, and it's an opportunity really to deepen that relationship and formalize that for us. We see this as a chance to reach more communities who may not have been involved with Mitzvah Day, but also Mitzvah Day brings in people who don't necessarily join traditional membership organisations and don't necessarily affiliate through ritual, but are interested in being involved through social action, which is obviously our key method to engage with Jewish life. Mitzvah Day really leads the way in interfaith social action work, and we see working with the Board of Deputies as an opportunity to really develop that further, whether that's through the board's social action group. But genuinely, this is a relationship which has worked both ways for a long time, and we see this really as a chance to continue and evolve that relationship. Mitzvah Day has around 400 key coordinators, and those would be the individuals that we reach out to for our election of this position. And we really appreciate the time and consideration that you're giving us. We work with such a diverse group of individuals and communities, and we're looking forward to continue deepening that and growing that work around the community. More than happy to take questions, and I know you're tight on time, so I'll stop there for the moment. But thank you so much for welcoming us this morning.
Thank you, and thank you for all your good work, Georgina. Ben Crown and Rick Cooper, could you both come off mute so we can try and save some time to be ready? Ben.
Good morning, Georgina. It's lovely to see you. It's lovely to have Mitzvah Day here. It's a great organisation, and I think that the board we're all very familiar with the work you do. I wondered if you could just, for a few moments, just give us an idea of sort of the scale of your work, the number of activities you run, the number of people who are involved, and what happens on all the days of the year that aren't Mitzvah Day in terms of the other projects that you do and operate.
Thanks, Ben. So Mitzvah Day is a really small team, and a lot of what we do throughout the year is working closely with coordinators, working really closely with our charity partners. We're always looking to find real needs and support our charities in ways that make a real difference. And that is a big part of our work. We also hold other interfaith social action events throughout the year. It's obviously been a bit more difficult, but we moved online like so many other charities, just looking for ways to continue to connect people and find ways to bring people together through social action. So that's just a bit about that. We work with close to 500 different groups and communities who run Mitzvah Day projects, and that's just across the UK. And we estimate that of those, there are around 25,000 individuals who get involved with Mitzvah Day annually in the UK. And when we look at our international engagement, that grows to around 40,000. So really, we engage with lots of people through social action. I think I've covered all the parts of your question, but there are a few. Yeah, okay, thumbs up.
Thank you. So the next question would be Rick Cooper and then Sophie Dunoff.
Rick Cooper, Portsmouth and South Sea Hebrew Congregation. Georgina, you have reminded us that Mitzvah Day is a large and important and highly respected organisation doing wonderful work, and therefore does have a responsibility to show leadership in the community. Can you please confirm that Mitzvah Day expressly adopts and supports the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, including all its examples? Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I think that's so important. Of course, as an outward-facing Jewish organisation, we know the first thing most people do is explain what a mitzvah is to any interfaith partners. I have to say that although personally I wholeheartedly support the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, that is something that I need to check whether or not it's been formally adopted by our board, but I would be very surprised if that was not something that was unanimously supported.
Thank you. Sophie.
Thanks, Marie. Hi, Georgina. I know that Mitzvah Day do fantastic work in the community and reaching parts of the community that aren't always so involved. I was just wondering specifically how you managed to engage kind of the youth and young adult parts of our community, and how engaged they are with Mitzvah Day projects.
So interestingly, I think this year we've seen even more kind of organic involvement. So many individuals and families, young people getting involved in Mitzvah Day. But we work across the whole community. We work with nurseries, chadarim, schools, youth movements, Jewish societies. We work with synagogues. We really work with, you know, the whole spectrum of the community. It's incredibly diverse in that way. And we're always looking for new partners and new ways of kind of furthering that work and sharing that work across the community. We really do work with everyone of all backgrounds. We're truly cross-communal in that way, working with every denomination. All major mainstream organizations across the community are involved. And like I said, wonderful to see so many of those communities on screen today, but we are always open to more people getting involved, and welcome anyone to get in touch if they're interested to learn more.
Thank you. And does Michael Rake or Denise Lester from last time want to ask a question? Anybody else that hadn't been able? Thank you so much, Georgina, for coming to speak to us. Very, very appreciated. I'm going to ask Judy and the team if they can ask the under 35 observers to wait in the waiting room.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. And thank you again for your work. So when the vote comes up, which it should do soon. Yep, and I have the vote this time as well, everybody.
Marie, everyone's back in now.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very, very appreciated. Thank you. Could we now please move on to the Jewish Vegetarian Society? And can we please welcome their CEO, Lara Balsam, to speak to us. Are you there, Lara?
Hello, good morning. Thank you.
Hello, hello, welcome.
Thanks very much. So a quick whistle-stop tour through the Jewish Vegetarian Society. JVS was founded in 1965 by a group of vegetarian Jews who were seeking to promote the many benefits of a vegetarian diet and highlight the commonalities shared between Judaism and vegetarianism. And it was thanks to a letter printed in the Jewish Chronicle in the late 60s that things got off to a great start. We are dedicated to promoting a kinder society without killing animals for food. And our mission is to make veganism a widely recognised and easily adopted lifestyle choice in the Jewish community. That's for the benefit of animals, for human health, and for the environment. We're a proudly Jewish charity with members from across the community. These include vegetarians, vegans, flexitarians, and omnivores. We are open to all. We exist to offer support and advice to Jews who wish to make compassionate dietary choices while retaining their connection to Judaism, Jewish food and Jewish festivals. We serve an ever-increasing demand in the community, which has grown year on year in the nearly 8 years that I've been at the helm of JVS. And that ranges from anything to do with advice on having a vegan wedding, bar and bar mitzvah, from caterers, from schools, and from synagogues, all looking to be more inclusive and welcoming to their vegetarian and vegan members. Ultimately, we're aiming to connect people to the source of their food and support and advise individuals who want to take the next step in their food journey towards veganism, as well as being on hand to support institutions and communal groups, for example, Limud and Eco Synagogue. In 2018, we renovated our HQ that we've had since the 60s, and we created the world's first Jewish vegan centre, from which we host an array of events, including Friday night dinners, Seder nights, cookery classes, discussions, gardening groups. We also run a community library, and I could go on and on because there's quite a lot happening there. We also offer our venue for hire. We are currently working with the KLBD and the SKA on improving labelling of meat-free options. And just to finally sum up, our patrons include former Chief Rabbi of Ireland, Rabbi David Rosen, and Senior Rabbi to Mazorti, Rabbi Jonathan Wittenberg. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Laura. So we have questions from Mervyn Smith, Mary Renuley and Amos Schonfield. Can we have the order, Mervyn, because I couldn't hear you before, apologies, Mary, and then Amos, if you can all unmute to be ready. Thank you, Mervyn.
This is not something with regard specifically to this organisation, but in general, and I was just wondering when I should actually pick it out. I fear that the board may be becoming a hodgepodge of organisations working very hard for their organisations, but will not be able to offer a great deal, if anything at all, to the board in respect of its objects and its actions with regard to the Jewish community in general. And please, to the young lady dealing with the present organisation that's being presented, this is nothing whatsoever to do with them. This is a general statement that I feel with regard to this matter as a whole. Thank you.
Mervyn, I want to thank you for your question, but in the nicest possible way, can we not refer to like the age or sex of the person who's giving the speech? It would be better if you just refer to Laura rather than describing her as a young lady, if you wouldn't mind. Laura, would you like to answer that?
I would. I'm aware that some deputies, or many deputies, may not have heard of us before, but we are a very active, in demand and well-respected part of the Jewish community. We've collaborated with a very, very long list of organisations and institutions in the community. For example, Limud, which caters to 3,000 people every year. I travel up to meet the caterer and advise them, and we're very much in existence to serve a demand in the Jewish community, and we have a lot to offer going forwards.
Thank you very much for that. The next question, I think it was Mary Renuley, then Karen Solomon, then Karen, and then Ben. Mary.
Thank you. Just to start by saying I'm a vegetarian, and I'd like to know the attitude of your society to shechita, whether you would support it, campaign against it, and whether you differentiate between shechita and ordinary slaughter.
I think I caught most of your question.
The question was, do you support shechita, basically?
Not quite that. I also would like to know whether there's a differentiation between shechita and ordinary slaughter, stunning slaughter, if you call it that way.
Thank you for the question. As a vegetarian stroke vegan organisation, we don't get involved in any slaughter. Shechita isn't something that we get asked about. It's really not in our realm or our domain, so it's not something on our agenda or anything to do with our work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Karen, you were next, and then I'm just going to go through the people we've got, and we'll have to see how many we can get through. we've got Daniel Smith, Karen Solomon, Amos, and Louis Trapp and Vicky Harris. So Karen, you're next.
I'm just repeating a question that was asked to Georgina in the last presentation. Will the Vegetarian Society, the Jewish Vegetarian Society, adopt the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism and all its and everything included?
Yes.
So you have adopted it?
We haven't yet adopted it, but I would echo the exact answer that Georgina gave. So it has 100% of my support, and I feel strongly that the board would also support that. Something I'd need to double check as a formality, but yes.
Thank you. I think there's a current campaign for Jewish organisations to adopt IHRA, but the board, of course, has adopted it in 2016. But thank you for that, Karen Newman.
Thank you very much. Karen Newman from the Liberal Jewish Synagogue. I just wanted to respond to the deputy who spoke a couple of moments ago. We often get so het up with our own politics that we forget that beyond there is a world out there that needs the work of a lot of the fantastic Jewish organizations that we've heard about this morning. A lot of our, in fact, I know the Constitution fairly well, having served on the Constitution Committee in this triennium and the last. A lot of the provisions were written on the assumption that most British Jews will manifest the fact that they are Jewish through joining a synagogue. Today, we know that isn't true. People get involved through fabulous initiatives like the Jewish Vegetarian Society, like Mitzvah Day, like Maccabi, all of the other ones. I urge deputies to recognize this is how the board remains relevant and able to say we represent the whole of British Jewry. It's by accepting and welcoming organizations like the Jewish Vegetarian Society. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Smith.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Dan Smith, Deputy for Liberal Judaism. Lara, what kind of outreach projects have you been doing this year during the pandemic and hopefully next year when we return to normalcy for young people, whether that be young professionals or students? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. It's been an unusual time in that I was furloughed for 6 months of the year, and we're a very, very small team. I'm the only staff member. We have done a little bit. We've done JVS Live with Zoom interviews, and we've also got a live cook along that runs every month that's international. So we've got people tuning in and all cooking the same recipe at the same time. Prior to COVID and post-COVID, we'll return to doing Friday night dinners and a whole range of other events and outreach that we do that you can read more about on our website.
Thank you. Amos.
Thank you, Marie. Amos Schonfield, Deputy for Yachad. Lara, I think most of the times I've been to JVS is actually for other organisations. And I think one of the most remarkable things that you do is sort of act as a hub and a boost for smaller organisations. I'd love to hear more about that work.
Sure, we're very lucky to have acquired a very large building in Golders Green in the 60s, which we renovated recently into a hub. So it's fantastic that we're able to host a partnership minyan, that we're able to have a big sukkah during Sukkot and host people, that we can have the likes of Jamie and Open Talmud projects. The list goes on. It's really, really exciting. We also house 2 other charities, J-Corps and Rena Kassan, in our hub as permanent office residents as well.
Thank you. So now we've got Vicky Harris, Louis Trapp and Ben Crown. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Let me just disclose that my daughter and my granddaughter are both vegetarian. However, I'm a bit concerned about your reply in connection with Shechita. I read from your governing document that your application and declaration for associates includes the following, that in addition, I desire to establish the principle, which has much rabbinic support amongst Jews and others, that observing the vegetarian way of life is a greater mitzvah than the observance of Shechita, and to make known the many beautiful teachings of the Old Testament, I think you mean the Tanakh, in which the non-carnivorous way of life is not only advocated but commanded. The commandment to eat vegetables came pre the flood. After the flood, God commanded the Jews to eat meat, and the Pesach offering is just such an instance. Could you please clarify your views on Shechita as you were asked previously by Ms. Renier Lee?
Yes, our organisational official response on Shahita on the 2 occasions, including today, that I've been asked in 8 years, has been that we do not get involved in Shahita, just as you wouldn't ask a charity that works on blindness, you wouldn't ask them about something unrelated. We simply don't have a policy. If push comes to shove, which I think has happened once, we of course recognise that people have a choice whether to eat meat or not, and that we recognise Shahita to be less cruel than other alternatives. But as we exist to promote vegetarianism and to make a space for vegetarians, that's the core focus of what we do. So it's not a question of me dodging the question, it's simply not in our remit to involve ourselves with slaughter methods. It's just not something we get involved in. I hope that's okay.
Thank you, thank you. We've now, could we have Louis and Ben? Louis Trapp.
Hi there, good morning. Thank you, Laura, and for your presentation. I think there was a question earlier about the relevance or the applicability of organisations such as the JVS, and I just want to highlight an instance myself. I represent the Armed Forces Jewish community, and in that I've had to be posted and worked all over the world. In that time, often it's difficult to practice and get kosher meat. And actually, I have used the Jewish Vegetarian Society recipes for festivals to enable me to practice whilst deployed. And so I think that's an important larger point there, that there are many links between organisations and value that can be brought by organisations such as the JVS in ways that we may not necessarily think about with our own communities, but may affect those in other constituencies. So my question to Lara is, do you commit to bringing more brilliant recipes that we can use around the world? Thank you.
Yes, recipes galore. And one thing I wanted to add, which links to what you said, was that we're simply trying to ensure that Jewish spaces welcome people who are vegetarian or vegan or anything in between. I know growing up as a Jewish vegetarian down the road from JVS, that it was often a case that vegetarians were considered or treated in such a way that they were second-class citizens, and there was a divide. And really, all Jewish spaces should be welcoming. There shouldn't be a tension between someone's vegetarian or vegan commitments and their Judaism. There's no reason why the two can't be brought together in harmony.
Thank you. Right, we'll have Ben Crown, Jeremy, and then Marilyn Keane. And just to say to everybody, if we continue running this late, we are going to have a special meeting for the motion on climate change. Ben.
Gosh, what an exciting prospect, Marie. Laura, just a very quick question for you. You mentioned early on that you're engaged at the moment with with various cultural authorities on sort of labelling and so forth. Could you just tell us a little bit more about that and sort of where that may go in the future in terms of certification and so forth?
Thanks. Yeah, it's very exciting. It's a shame I had to rush through that. So the KLBD did a special vegan version of their roadshow for us. They've done it twice and we brought in a whole new crowd. And then at the same time, both the KLBD and the Sephardi Cultural Authority are very interested in ensuring that the products and the establishments that they license have much clearer labelling of vegan and vegetarian products, such that if you were a vegan or vegetarian and went with your family to a restaurant, you could know just from looking at the menu that they understand what a vegan option would be, and that when you go in, you can find something to eat that's nutritionally equivalent, that isn't sort of just falafel. Not that there's anything wrong with falafel, but the idea is to ensure that once someone is motivated or supported to move towards vegetarian or veganism, that wherever they go in the community, whether it's a kosher shop or restaurant or synagogue, that they can fulfill their vegan vegetarian lifestyle because they have access to it wherever they go in the community.
Thank you. So Marilyn, Jeremy Sher and Stuart Goodman, these will have to be the last questions for Lara. Marilyn.
Hi. Marilyn Keane, Bournemouth Hebrew Congregation. Thank you, Lara. I have a general comment. As a regional deputy, I think that these organisations are worthwhile new members of the board. However, I would ask that some of these organisations who are specific region focused see how their work and support can be expanded to cover all areas of the UK. The small and even smaller communities need to be included in all forms of Jewish life and support. And I would ask that some of these organisations see how they can expand their geographical areas of involvement, either themselves or setting up subgroups or reaching out to the wider community. Thank you.
Thank you, Lara.
Thank you, Marilyn. Nice to meet you. I agree wholeheartedly. Back in the day in the 60s when first launched, we did have regional chapters and things were very active. As a one-woman band at the moment, I am doing my best and we would like to get back to that. And pre-COVID, I was traveling around the UK and speaking at various day limits and other things. So it's definitely an aspiration and a promise for the future that we will get around to other parts of the UK.
Thank you. Jeremy Sher, then Stuart Goodman.
My question's not for Lara, it's a general comment. I just want to make 2 points. The first is on religious matters, which I consider Shechita to be a religious matter. The Constitution Committee has a very strong policy that we do not inquire into religious matters. That is a matter which is specifically delegated under our Constitution to our ecclesiastical authorities, which span the liberal Jewish synagogue through to the United and the SMP on the Orthodox side. So that's the first point. It's very important, and it's very important for the community's unity that we do not inquire into religious matters because there are different views between all of us. And what is important is that we have mutual respect and moderation for those different views, and that the board is in a position that it can advance views for all the different diverse parts of the community. So I just want to emphasize that. I know I'm going to go over time, but I'm going to talk a little bit more. The second point I want to make is about these organizations and how they elect their deputies. Most of these organizations have significant membership bases where elections can be run in the same way as synagogues. However, this is an important point. Over the last 20 years or so, we have been admitting more and more organizations, including my organization, the UJIA, which does not have members. What is expected is that these organizations will extend a public nomination process. Nominations will be called for. There will be a formal meeting where individuals will be elected. That has been repeatedly approved by the Constitution Committee. In the synagogue case, those are always done at the annual general meetings. It's the same with UJS, same with any of the big membership organizations. But there are some very, very important organizations in our community that need to be represented, like Friendship Circle, for instance, which represents disabled people. I think it will be our first organization that specifically focuses on the disabled, where the process is slightly different. It is open and democratic to do it that way, and it has been repeatedly set as a precedent by this board, and we will stand by it at the Constitution Committee.
Thank you. Stuart Goodman. Stuart.
Thank you, President. I trust you can hear me.
We can.
Stuart Goodman, Plymouth. On the subject of ritual slaughter, the JVS follows in the honourable tradition of the great Rabbi Akiva, who is said to have been a vegetarian. Today, either by choice or necessity, a quarter of the planet is such. Whether we do or don't agree with vegetarianism is not the point. Our Constitution contains no such requirement, and the object of doing less harm to our endangered environment is surely the Jewish object. Deputies, I say there is no valid reason, constitutional or otherwise, to reject this application. To do so would be an embarrassment. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you. Could I please ask, and thank you, Lara, very appreciated. Could I please ask the team to ask the under 35 observers to go into the waiting room, please? And the vote is up. Thank you. Thank you. We're now going to move on to the application from Jamie. Could I say to you that the chair of Jamie is Adam Dawson, who was a deputy for 24 years. I think that deserves something. And his father before him was a long-standing deputy for Sheffield. So I don't know whether we have got Adam talking today, or whether or not we've got Laurie Rackind, who is the CEO. So perhaps if someone can let me know who is talking for Jamie, it would be very appreciated.
Yeah,
Adam is speaking. Oh, Adam, thank you for coming back. How does it feel after 24 years? And you've been gone for about 10 or 11, but thank you for coming back to talk to us.
It's a great pleasure. So I missed the bit. Can I go and talk about? Yes, the
Please
topic
do.
started, so I better get it. Thank you very much. It is a great pleasure to come back and talk about Jamie's application to join the board. Apologies from Laurie, he's not been able to join the rest of the call this morning. Jamie is a mental health charity. We were founded 32 years ago, and we provide practical and emotional support for anyone affected by mental health problems, including family, friends, and employers of those with mental illness. We employ around 60 mental health professionals who provide a range of services and support to those living with mental illness in order to help build resilience, to achieve their goals, and for individuals to have control over their life. Our services are delivered through community hubs, through outreach, education and training, and bespoke recovery support plans for individuals. At any one time, we have around 1,300 people who we're dealing with living with mental illness. And last year, we had just over 55,000 individual interactions. Whilst traditionally much of our footprint has been in London, we're hoping to be able to, moving forward, work with a number of communities outside of London. We've also to date been an adult service. However, as part of a strategic review we're going through, we're looking at ways in which we'll be able to provide support and services to secondary school age children and above. In response to COVID, our services moved online for the last 12 months. And moving forward, I hope that we can use what we've learned from the online platforms to reach more and more people. Key to our work is that we collaborate across the community. I think we've worked with all of the organisations who are applying to join today, and indeed the board. Our key partner is Jewish Care, but we also work with other community organisations and synagogal bodies. And I think it's vitally important going forward that the community looks for more and more opportunities for collaboration. Whilst hopefully we are beyond the physical peak, the physical effects of COVID, the mental illness legacy is very much likely to continue. And therefore, we are acutely aware of the need for our services going forward. We've not been a member of the board until now, but we do work very closely where we can with the professionals and the professional team. So I can see my time's running out. So just to say thank you for considering us, and very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. That's very kind. Thank you, Adam. We've got Dory, Jerry Lewis, and Vicky Harris. Thank you. Dory, you're first. And other deputies, please feel free to ask questions as well. Thank you. Dory.
Sorry, it relates to a point that Jeremy Sher made. Unfortunately, my hand got taken down. I'm very concerned about a comment he made, not to do with Jami, but to do with his comment about religious matters. So in one sentence, he said that Shechita is a religious matter which is delegated to our so-called ecclesiastical authorities. I'm not sure about that. Shechita and the defense of Shechita is one of the core objectives of the board. So I'd like that to be reconciled, please. Thank you.
Sorry, is that a question for Jamie?
No, I said.
Well, but I'm okay. I'm really sorry. Please, deputies.
Concerned me a lot, and I hope
please, deputies, please, Dory. It's not fair on the application for Jamie. Please. Sorry, Jerry Lewis.
Jerry Lewis, Hampstead. Wonderful seeing you again, Adam. Just to correct the president, you are in fact the grandson of a former deputy, as well as the son of a former deputy. And I remember your grandfather very well. To answer Mervyn Smith, I've always been in favour, and the board's always been in favour, of being a wide group welcoming a wide range of organisations, and that must include Jamie. I'm very pleased they're applying. We need to have an opportunity for other members of the community to plug in. What I did want to raise, and what Jeremy has briefly touched on, is that your application says will be appointed by a board of trustees. The deputy will be appointed. Could we please have an assurance no precedents will be met, as started by this arrangement, and that in fact your deputy will be elected by trustees or whoever? Thank you.
And just to confirm, there's going to be scrutiny before any deputy is allowed in by the Constitution Committee, which would meet after Passover. So I just want to reassure everybody of that. Adam, you'll be familiar with the rules, they haven't changed.
Yeah, no, that's right. I'm afraid I don't know what was in there. Clearly, it will be elected. So the word elected as opposed to appointed should be there. And it will be. It's an important point there, of course, is that organisations such as ours don't have, we have a number of people using our services. That's different to membership. But we understand when the board approached us, the appropriate way to do it would be that the Board of Trustees will elect a deputy, and we'll do that hopefully at our forthcoming board meeting in April, subject obviously to our application today.
Thank you, Adam. Right, the order for speaking, because you haven't spoken today, is Tal Offair, Vicky Harris, and then Rick Cooper, and then we'll close the questions. Thank you, Tal.
Thank you, Tal Offair, Chigwell and Hainault. Welcome back, Adam, and congratulations on all the great work that Jamie is doing. A very quick question. I wanted to ask you if you guys are tracking the change in the number of patients and people you are helping with since the pandemic and the lockdown started, if you saw any kind of increase in the number of people who need your services.
Yeah, I very kindly, the team provided me this morning with our latest figures. We've seen a 133% increase in under 25s accessing our service. We've seen a 110% increase in adults beyond 25 accessing the service. I think, as I said, whilst hopefully we are beyond the peak in terms of those catching COVID during this time of the pandemic, the mental health issues which follow is likely to increase and continue. And I think what's interesting about those who are joining our service is that these are people who have not been in mental health service before. And this is not the same people coming back, which we do find, but we're having, sadly, unique people from very different circumstances, perhaps, than those using mental health services 10, 15 years ago. Or I should say probably 2 years ago.
Thank you. Then we've got, Vicky, Rick, and now we've got Joel Rosen, and that has to be, so sorry, the end of the questions. Vicky.
Thank you. Vicky Harris, Hampstead Garden Suburb Synagogue. Thank you so much, Adam. As a former lecturer, assistant professor of psychology, may I endorse everything you've said and say how brilliant I think Jamie is. My one concern is that Jamie is technically a subsidiary of Jewish Care, which is another very valued member of our board. I want to seek clarification from you that you operate completely independently. Otherwise, it would seem like double counting. I'm strongly in favour of your application. Let me say, I don't wish to question it at all. I think it's absolutely brilliant. However, I'd like clarification from you and possibly from Jeremy Sher, if he could answer that question, please.
Yeah, no, it's a very, thank you, Ricky. It's a fair question. We are, in a legal sense, a partner with Jewish Care, but in terms of the way we operate, we have a separate board of trustees, of which I chair, and we provide separate accounts, and the charities run independently, but we do work together. I don't want to sort of throw it back to the board. We were approached by the board to say whether we would join, and we'd be delighted to, because we think that the specific mental health and mental illness is something which is very important to sit around the table. But I, again, defer that to your Constitution Committee, whether our relationship with Jewish Care, it makes that problematic. I would hope it doesn't.
Thank you. And yes, just to confirm, the board's communal engagement team headed by Judy Silkoff, Sarah, you've got Sarah Radovan and Lauren Kalers have been approaching organisations. Thank you. Could we have please Rick, and last question, Jeffrey Gaffson. Rick Cooper first. Thank you.
Rick Cooper, Portsmouth and Southsea Hebrew Congregation. Welcome back, Adam. Nice to see you. Same question for you as for Mitzvah Day. The same reasons, like Mitzvah Day, you are a large and important organisation, and many people, particularly in the National Health Service, will judge and take their opinion of the Jewish community by their encounters with you. So you're important. Can you please confirm, expressly confirm, that JAMI have adopted the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism in its entirety with all its examples? Thank you.
You know, thank you, Rick. I think your question highlights the benefits and the two-way benefits of Jamie and the board, and what the board can learn from Jamie. I'll be perfectly honest with you, it's nothing which has crossed my table as chair in terms of something that we have considered. Now, the way you put it, and you're very kind to put it, the important work we've done, perhaps that's naive of me. Certainly, I personally fully support it, and following what you've said, I'm going to have a chat with our chief exec and make sure we can put it on the agenda for our next board meeting so that we can formally adopt it, because I do agree with you. But so the answer to your question is no, we haven't. Should we? Yes. Will we? Absolutely.
Thank you. Jeffrey, over to you.
Thank you, Madam President. Adam, welcome back. You're my mentor as Mill Hill, an ex-Mill Hill deputy. I've got great admiration for Jamie and the fantastic work they do in the community. And my question is, having a granddaughter on the autistic spectrum, can you please inform deputies as to how you deal with autism and Asperger's within the community? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, at the moment, and I'm not going to ask in terms of age, we are ostensibly an adult service. We are looking at, and we started in September, a strategic review to look at the services we're providing. The answer to your question is, we won't turn anybody away in terms of mental illness. There are organisations we work with. It doesn't mean we do the work all ourselves. There are organisations who we partner with, such as Norwood, such as Kisharon, who we will, Camp Simcha, who we will work to see where the best piece of work can be done. So I think the answer is there's still more to be done. I think that there is a particular area in terms of autism Asperger's, which is perhaps not as well understood as it could be. And you know, it's something we will certainly try and do as well as we can going forward. Not a lot of our services are directed there at the moment. Again, it depends in terms of who one is dealing with at what age and at what stage. But certainly in the work we do cross-communally, it's something we do pick up.
Thank you. Thank you very much for answering all of those questions, Adam. Thank you also for the work that Jamie's done to support people through this pandemic. It's very appreciated. Thank you. Could I please ask the board team to remove very nicely the under 35 observers, ask them to go to the waiting room, please. And whilst we're doing this, we are running incredibly late. I do feel, because several people have contacted me still to ask, are we still having a break for 10 minutes? I think we should do, because it's a very long meeting. So I would propose that after we've had the vote, we break for 10 minutes and come back, if that's all right with all of you. And get yourself a nice cuppa or something, and we'll carry on. The vote's up. Thank you, deputies. It's now 12:17. So can we be back here at around 12:27? Let's all just have a comfort break, and we'll see you in 10 minutes. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you. I'll just give everybody just a couple of seconds to come back. Judy, I'm going to ask Judy very shortly to put the results up on screen for us. Are you there, Judy?
Yeah, Maria, I can do them one at a time. So if you let me know which ones you'd like to
Oh,
go.
thank you. Can we take them in the order, please, that they were put on? So London Jewish Forum, I think, was first. Thank you. So that one is not admitted, but I hope that the deputies are very clear that this is a very good organisation, which is supported by both the Jewish Leadership Council and the Board of Deputies for volunteers helping, particularly in London, and that this is is operated as a joint venture, and it has been operated very successfully. Thank you. Could I please have the result for Maccabi? Yes, at 86%. Maccabi is admitted. Thank you very much. Next, please, the Friendship Circle from Manchester. Yes, that's admitted at 86%. Thank you very much. Mitzvah Day. That's a yes at 70%. Thank you. Next, please, the Jewish Vegetarian Society. 66%. I'm going to refer this to the Constitution Committee to determine whether or not they are admitted. And because there is facility for abstention, that depends whether or not those abstentions should be taken into account, i.e. that they are really votes for no, so that people know when they abstain if they are a vote for no or abstaining. So I'm going to refer that to the Constitution Committee and to have to refer back to you. Thank you. And Jamie, please, can we have the results? That's an overwhelming yes as well at 85%. Thank you. So well done to those organisations that are admitted, and thank you to all the organisations that have wanted to join the board. And we do very much appreciate that and want to work with all our communal organisations. Do you have a point of order, Joy? I can't hear.
I think. Oh.
So, well, I take it it's not a point of order. Can we'll have to.
I think it actually possibly is. It's just in relation to what was said at the very outset of all of these votes, and that is, can we take a lesson from the fact that had all the information been given before and that the new people would not be voting, then we wouldn't have had this business behind us of a feeling that we would not necessarily support it, because it was felt, sadly, that was felt that there was possibly some kind of manipulation. But had all the information been shared and had people known beforehand that these people would not have a vote, I don't think we would have had all that background difficulty.
Well, can I say thank you for raising that, Joy, but I'm really disappointed even that people would have such awful conspiracy theories about I mean, what does this actually say about those communal organisations that wanted to join the board? Do you think they really had a conspiracy to want to vote? Whichever deputy or deputies put that in the Jewish Chronicle, they should be ashamed of themselves. And I really don't know what their motivation was. These are all good organisations wanting to do their very best for the community and their volunteers. But there is no possible way that any of these organisations are going to have deputies before the election. And I did make that clear before we actually discussed any of these votes. I said that at the beginning, none of these organisations would have deputies. We've had a steady stream of organisations wanting to join, and that has been because our communal engagement team, headed by Judy Silkoff, Sarah Radovan and Lauren Keeles, have done such a good job in the community. We've got another 12 organisations waiting to join, and we've got more organisations behind that. It could also be symptomatic that in lockdown, people have wanted to associate more with organisations, other ways to connect, to be part of the community, and that's renewed the interest in wanting to be in the Board of Deputies. But it's so sad that if there are such bitter individuals thinking that those worthy organisations wanted to conspire for votes, that just makes me feel really sad, and that anybody could even think that or forward that post. And it really brings the Board of Deputies into disrepute. I'm going to ask a couple of people, you've got your hands up. It does have to be a point of order, because we're not going to be able to get to the President's statement or the division reports. So I'm going to ask, are these points of orders, not just comments, please? Bruce, what's your point of order?
Yes, Bruce Greenberg in Northampton Hebrew Congregation. I thought the first organization we voted on, London Jewish Forum, originally you initially showed that it did pass. Are you saying a 2/3 yes is needed, not just a simple majority?
I don't know what's happened, Bruce. It's a 2/3 majority. It's not passed. So I need to be clear. And again, I think all I would say, whatever deputies believe that the board is engaging in conspiracy theories, they need to take a look at themselves, because we're all here to work for our community and support each other, and that people would think such vile things. It's just really sad, really, really sad. Sally, you'll have to come off mute. I'm only going to take points of order, please.
It's just that I've just tried to email Judy and I can't, and it's about my vote.
I'm sorry if you couldn't vote. Can I share with everybody? I couldn't vote either.
I could vote. It's a query about what's going to be happening with the Jewish Vegetarian Society.
I will answer the query. I
don't really want to.
No, I've referred the query to Jeremy Sher, and he will need to look at that with the Constitution Committee, because it's dead on the 66, but there were abstentions. Michael Rake, what's your point of order, please? Can you come off mute? We can't hear you. Perhaps Josh can come off mute.
It's okay. I'm there now. I'm concerned about the number of applications we've taken in one moment in time, 6 today.
I'm really sorry. That's not a point of order, Michael. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. We've got to carry on with the meeting. We've got a backup of applications.
The meeting has gone to such an extent.
Thank you, Michael. It's not a point of order. Thank you, Michael. It's not a point of order. Can I say to everyone, we have got such unprecedented interest in organisations joining the board. We have not had this for years and years, and we've got a backup of organisations wanting to join. Whatever their interest in the board, we should welcome it and welcome others into the community. And with the Constitution, in the last few meetings, we've not been able to deal with all the applications. We've got 12 more behind this. Josh, what is your point of order, please?
Hi, as a point of order, I'd just like to say that I think the last 5 minutes of proceedings have been wrapped up in the rhetoric. I think it has been so uncordial and so vitriolic that we need to take a look at ourselves and wonder how we're running a communal meeting right now, because it seems to me that something has been taken extremely personal, and the treatment of other deputies who have raised points has actually been disgusting over the last 5 minutes. And I use that word in all aspects of what it means.
Thank you, Josh.
Of deputies' concerns has actually been disgusting for the last 5 minutes, and if we could return to a point of cordiality, that would be very nice for the rest of the proceedings.
Thank you very much, Josh. We've all got points that we have to make, but I'm afraid to say that wanting to believe that organisations, as Joy raised the point fairly enough, are going to engage in some sort of vote rigging is something that's very, very sad. And I do think we all need to be able to have a look at that. And I can only apologise that we've got so many organisations today wanting to join the board, but that is something that we should really want to be treasuring. Can we move on to the next part of the meeting? And we'll have to find out from Jeremy Sher if he can come back to us on the Jewish Vegetarian Society now, or it might unfortunately be next time. So the President's statement. Can we do some mazel tovs, which is a very good thing, to Malvin Benjamin on the birth of his new granddaughter, Richard Byrne on his new granddaughter, and very sad condolences to Sam Perlman on the sad death of his father, Chaim, who was himself a former deputy. I do want to say that this is Gillian Merron's last meeting, and she has been an incredible chief executive, and she is leaving our organisations, as I've said in the President's statement, for the very best of reasons. She's going to be Baroness, in fact she is already Baroness Merron of Lincoln, going to the House of Lords, and I know that Gillian would like to say a few words to you. So Gillian.
Marie, thank you very much, and you're very welcome to put the clock on. So the same rules apply to me. It's very emotional for me to be leaving the Board of Deputies. It's been quite a 7 years, and it's been an absolute honour to serve the Board of Deputies and our Jewish community in this country through the Board of Deputies. I've worked with 3 presidents, including you, Marie, but also with Vivian and Johnny. 3 teams of honorary officers, and of course 3 groups of deputies across the trienniums. And I just want to say to you all, you have my every respect and regard for the way you have given your time voluntarily, willingly, and in good heart, because you believe in service. And I think that all too often that is forgotten. But I want to pay tribute to you all and to say thank you. It's you do it as volunteers, and you do it because you believe. I've also had the privilege, of course, of leading a professional staff team, which in my view is second to none. And they are committed to serving our community to get the best. And that's what they do day in, day out. And for that, I thank them too. And I will be handing on the baton to a pair of safe hands in Michael. And Michael, I wish you every happiness and every success. I know that you will take that baton, and you will continue to take the Board of Deputies to even greater heights, and I wish you well. I just want to say, Marie, that my grandparents, like the grandparents or ancestors of many of us, when they came to this country, when they fled the circumstances that they did, could never have even believed that their granddaughter, who of course not yet born, and they wouldn't have known I was going to be, not even their grandson, but that their granddaughter could become the chief executive of the representative body of the Jews in Britain. The Board of Deputies they looked up to, they relied on, as people still do now. And that's why it is such an honour and a privilege to have served. And you have all taught me so much, and we have all shared so much. And I will take all of that with me to the House of Lords. And I want to end, Marie, by saying thank you to you, thank you to Johnny, thank you to Vivian for leading the Board of Deputies as you have. May you go from strength to strength. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Gillian. It really is a very, you can see all the hands and the claps that you're getting. Thank you, Deputies. That's lovely. It is a very difficult job that you've had. I do believe the organisation's gone from strength to strength. I also feel very emotional just listening to you and it's going to be very difficult not to see you there, but we know that you will always be a friend to the board, and your family has every reason to be proud of you. And this shows that the Board of Deputies is a place where everyone can have an opportunity to flourish and to be part of the community. And we really look forward to welcoming you back, Gillian. We know that we will see you again, and we're all very grateful for everything that you and the team have done, because it is always about the wonderful board team that we've all been privileged to work with. And I think, thank you for your patience. I think you've been extremely good, and your wise counsel. So we are deeply indebted to you, and we are very sorry to see you go, but very happy that you are going to the Lord. So thank you. And thank you also for Michael Weger, who will be taking over. Do you want to just say a couple of words, Michael, to the deputies?
Sure. Thank you very much, Marie. And of course, my huge gratitude to Gillian for all the work she has done over the last 7 years. I've had a really fascinating and important last couple of weeks, meeting as many of the professional staff and as many of the honorary officers and deputies as possible. And I really do look forward to chatting with as many of you as possible. I'll try and make myself as accessible as possible in doing what we all can do, which is to represent our community faithfully to the various authorities here and around the global Jewish community, and put a spotlight on what an extraordinary British Jewish community we have. I feel it a tremendous privilege to be here, and I look forward to the time I'll spend with you now, helping us to achieve even more. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. That's lovely of you to speak. So in addition to the matters raised in the President's statement, could I also just report the communal meeting that I had with the Jewish Leadership Council, with Jonathan Goldstein and Claudia Mendoza, attended also by Phil Rosenberg, our Director of Public Affairs. We also met the Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, during the week. This was after the meeting notes had gone out to deputies. And we did speak very much, I think it's been printed, you will have seen it in the Jewish press, in relation to Israel. We spoke, I particularly asked about the move potentially of the embassy, the UK embassy to Jerusalem. We addressed the situation in relation to Iran, religious freedoms, the Uyghurs, and various other matters which were set out in the press. So I just wanted to report that to you. I can see we've got some questions, so perhaps it might be better to take the questions and see how we get as we go along. So I think, Louise, you've been first, so thank you.
Louise Ellman, Jewish Labour Movement. I too would like to say thank you to Gillian for her great work. It was a great shame that she lost her position in the House of Commons, and we then benefited from that. She's going to the House of Lords, we're losing, but I'm sure she'll do a great job there. I want to raise the situation on Professor David Miller, and thank the board for the great work that you've been doing in bringing the situation to this point. I'm glad that Bristol University are now going to conduct an investigation, but it must not be whitewashed. And we must remember this is not just about academic freedom, it's about the Jewish community. David Miller said that the Jewish students on campus and elsewhere are used as political pawns by a violent, racist foreign government. That's an attack on Jewish students, an attack on Jewish people, and an attack on our community. I hope you will follow the investigation and make sure it is not a whitewash. Bristol University must act on this.
Thank you. I think that's very well put. Not only must Bristol University act, but also many other campuses. We're seeing an alarming situation at the moment. We've been very forthright. I attended a virtual rally with Rachel Riley, where we set out the position of the community, and we've got to call this out every time. The situation at Oxford University earlier on in the month, that was also extremely troubling, and campus is something that we definitely will be following up. And of course, we work with UJS, and James Harris will be addressing us later on, but it's something we have to make sure that we are very much on top of every time. We've got a lot of hands, so thank you for that. I'm going to give priority to people that haven't spoken, but I'm going to come back to Michael so that Michael Rake can ask me what perhaps he would like to do this time. So Michael.
Okay, thank you very much, Marie.
A pleasure.
Basically, this follows on with the question that I asked, which are in the notes. I'm very sorry if we're not now going to have the motion on climate change today, from the point of view that I believe we should try to have at every meeting or every other meeting, a motion, a debate on a particular subject matter, which I think is one of the major things the board should be doing among its membership. I particularly raised the matter in my question about the Uyghurs as one subject matter, and about the memorial, the Holocaust memorial besides the House of Commons as another subject matter. I don't believe we have actually had proper debates about this, where we put forward a motion on the basis of what we would like, the way that we would like our executive to put forward the view of the board to the outer society. I think this is something we should do by debate, and then you, Marie, can put forward the view of the board specifically when we have specific matters to discuss. So I'm asking that the new executive, when it's comes into being next May, June, they make it their business to have specific discussions taking place every week on a particular motion.
Thank you for your contribution there, Michael. Obviously, as I've said in the reply, there is a very delicate balance where you have honorary officers and trustees that are democratically elected. I do believe we have a huge amount of discussion between us. It's not possible to discuss absolutely everything, but I do believe the key strategic issues that affect the community are discussed, and that deputies hugely contribute with their views. Even from today's meeting, we can see the huge different array of views, and we've got our live meetings. We've got plenty of topics that come up for debate, and I did want to have the climate change motion today, and that will be at a special meeting probably later on during the week. Can I take some people that don't often talk first? David Jewell, would you like to ask your question, please? You're on mute.
Thank you. David Jewell from Bristol and West Progressive Synagogue. And I'm not going to comment about David Miller, except to say that I think that calling for his tenure to be ended is not helpful. I want to comment on the looking into war crimes. I was very surprised, President, to see you weighing in against the International Criminal Court in this way. My feeling is that Hamas is clearly a terrorist organization, and nobody's in argument about that. And the abduction of those students and their murder, no one's going to argue that this is a terrible, terrible crime. But if the Israeli Defense Force is committing war crimes, we want to know about it. And if they're not, we have nothing to fear. I was surprised.
Thank you for, well, we are a broad array of views. I've given what I think is the view of the community and myself, and I think there is a huge concern at the double standards at which Israel is treated to, and that includes, I'm afraid to say it, by the International Criminal Court. And I can see quite a few people nodding. We all are a community of very, very varied opinions, but on that one, I think there is a huge amount of support. But I acknowledge that you do have a different view. Jay Tarara, would you like to speak, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jay Tarara, Jewish Representative Council of Greater Manchester and Region. Congratulations to Gillian on her elevation to the House of Lords. Madam President, we saw recently a segment on the BBC Politics live show where the question was, do Jews count as a minority, an ethnic minority? And there the presenter further stated, and I quote, "It seems that Jews have done okay for themselves in the UK, so they no longer qualify. I actually sit on Andy Burnham's race equality panel in Manchester, and I brought this very issue in that forum. Is it not a fallacy to generalize or conflate social mobility as an excuse to exclude us from ethnic categories and everything that entails? The census mentions Judaism as a religion, but not as an ethnicity. So therefore, we are invisible. And yet, as Jews, we are the oldest ethnic minority in the UK, and very proud of it. Ticking the other box doesn't do it. Ensuring that we count as a minority does. So how can the board take the lead in ensuring that we are in?
Thank you, Jay. It's a very, very good question. And of course, we are on National Census Day today. Well, Jews, according to the Equality Act 2010, are a race and a religion, and it's the same for the Sikhs. I think years ago, perhaps it became unfashionable for Jews to say they were wanting to describe ethnicity, but I'm firmly of the view myself, and we have had a cross-communal meeting of the divisions for community and the Defence Division on this, that we should also have the box for ethnicity, because that is a very important thing that we should want to ensure that we protect. It's too late for this census, but we have had a meeting with JPR, and afterwards we're going to have another meeting with JPR, the Jewish Policy Research, and other communal organisations to actually have a proper communal consultation as to what we should be doing next. But I agree that there should, as well as the religion box, there should also be space for ethnicity, and we should be proud of our ethnicity. And I agree with that. But we can't do anything for today. But we need to look at that. The other thing that might be of concern to, for example, JPR, is that the reports that they have worked very hard on over the years haven't been recently in relation to ethnicity. So there could be some difficulty in looking at those reports, comparing them, which is obviously very useful for the generations, but we'll have to find a way to deal with that. So I want to reassure you that there will be a consultation on that. Thank you. Penina Serrano. You'll have to come off mute, Penina. You're still on mute.
Is that okay?
Yep, go on, please ask your question.
Rona Beshalom, Reform Synagogue, Cambridge. I'd like to ask the President and Honorary Officers if we can do more to halt the hate crimes against Jews, where anti-Semites are holding abhorrent meetings classed as Anti-Apartheid Israel Week. I personally have been verbally attacked at social venues, physically pushed, passing protest meetings, and been told at dinner parties I was okay as a Jew and not an Israeli. Moreover, it is the fact that we as British taxpayers are still paying for hate textbooks for Palestinian children, many written and vetted by officials whose salaries are paid in the UK. I've witnessed anti-Semitism by the far-right skinhead types and overeducated, ill-informed, trendy left-wing extremists. During lockdown, the activity, in fact, grows, but more underground and via online portals. I watched some of these, for example, Roger Waters, amongst others, said the most outrageous lies. And he also said that no one was allowed in the UK due to the burden of guilt from the Holocaust, and yet we all know it's far from true, to speak freely when we can see on YouTube so many things via SOAS, King's College, Uni of Leicester, Bristol, etc., etc. So, have I finished? Is it gone? So I would just like to ask, you know, could we do more about this, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, in relation to the Palestinian textbooks, this was something that we have raised with the Foreign Secretary during our meeting during the week. We're all outraged at Israel Apartheid Week, as I've said in the President's statement. Fortunately, this year, online has meant that there has been less abuse, but it is absolutely abhorrent, and we have got to work very, very hard to support UJS dealing with those issues on campus. If it was possible, of course, we would like to ban the whole concept of Israel Apartheid Week. It's absolutely outrageous. It's offensive. We can keep lobbying. We can keep taking it on. We are not ones to be quiet as a community where we consider there is an outrage and double standards as to how Israel is treated. And of course, students should be able to go to campus and choose those universities where they want to do their courses, not where they think they're Jewish-friendly universities. Of course, it's an outrage. And key to this, of course, is also having relationships with the vice-chancellors and the provosts of those universities, which we have to keep working at. Unfortunately, anti-Semitism in academic circles is absolutely troubling. We've tried to make inroads, huge inroads, in relation to putting anti-Semitism in relation to the Labour Party back to the fringes of society, but unfortunately we can still see how it is still in academic circles, and we've still got a long way to go on this journey. And I do believe that the government should use punitive financial measures to those universities where they do have abuse to Jewish students. It's quite clear that there are ways. We all believe in freedom of speech, but I want to say very clearly that freedom of speech does not extend to hate speech, and it doesn't extend to race hatred. That's what people need to understand. And freedom of speech also means that we can also make representations when there are speakers that we find abusive and hateful. Freedom of speech works both ways, but we need to carry on. This is going to be something that is absolutely an endless task, something that we're not going to easily be free of. So thank you for that question. Richard Yoffe, would you like to ask a question? And no disrespect to anyone who's here, we don't get to you because I can't ask everyone for questions, and I'm doing my best. Richard.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to agree entirely with every word that Louise Ellman made just recently regarding Bristol. And I am deeply concerned and have a very, very real question, which I hope can be developed. The all-party parliamentary group against anti-Semitism has accused Professor Miller of, and I quote, inciting hatred against Jewish students. If that isn't a hate crime, what the hell is? If we can arrest women on Clapham Common, why is this man not charged, as he has clearly broken the law?
I don't know if Richard's frozen, but I think we've got the gist of his question. I do think it's an absolute outrage, but has not been arrested and he's still employed. And I do know, because in my day job, I'm a partner in a law firm and I specialise in employment law. They certainly could have suspended him pending investigation immediately. I'm pleased that they've now taken that action. And he's clearly brought the university into disrepute, but there's got to be the will to want to deal with it. And that's what the problem is at this university. There isn't the will to want to deal with it. And we have to keep advocating to ministers, because it's not acceptable. We all agree this is such an outrage, and we've had many MPs, even in the House of Commons, saying it's an outrage, and it's just unacceptable, unforgivable for this to be able to continue to influence people in this way. So I absolutely agree with all of the concern. David Mendoza-Wolfson. You'll have to come off mute, David.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just waiting to be.
Apologies. Go on.
David Mendoza-Wolfson, Reform Judaism. I'm concerned about the increasing use of Holocaust imagery in anti-lockdown protests. It first came to public attention with Piers Morgan's disgusting Auschwitz posters, and now it seems a number of people attending anti-lockdown protests are donning yellow stars. Would you condemn this disgusting misuse of Holocaust imagery, and what more do you think the board can do to combat it? Thank you.
It is disgusting. It's unimaginable that we keep seeing, for example, imagery for sale on the internet. I wish the board could monitor absolutely every single website or everywhere where there is abuse against Jews, whether it's Holocaust imagery or anti-Semitism. We're doing the very, very best that we can. And of course, the CST are also there. They do amazing work. We do need to keep fully on top of all of these issues. And yes, again, we need to keep doing more. It's something that is absolutely vile and abhorrent. I wish it was a crime, but we have to carry on and we have to continue making representations. Thank you. Paul Hart. Are you off mute, Paul?
Yes, I am now. Thank you. Do we know how many universities have not adopted the IHRA against anti-Semitism? I was speaking to Rabbi Maurice Michaels of Bournemouth Reform, and he's told me that Bournemouth haven't adopted it either.
There are a lot of universities that haven't adopted it, and some have adopted it not with all the examples. We did publish some information, I think it was last year, which I'll see that whether we can send it again out to deputies. But this again goes back to my saying that eventually I think the government should be looking at public funding for universities that will not accept IRA and will not look after all of their students, because that is something that's in their control. And we all believe in freedom of speech, but again, freedom of speech does not extend to hate speech, and it does not extend to race hatred. This is a big area that the board, we're going to be working on, dealing a special project in relation to trying to get people to understand so very, very clearly what is freedom of speech and what freedom of speech is not, because it's not carte blanche to say what you want and give the excuse. It's freedom of speech. Susan Pascoe. Thank you for your question. Susan, can you come off mute, please?
Thank you, Marie. So we were told at the Defence Division meeting this week in relation to Israel Apartheid Week that the board wasn't seeking for it to be banned. So I'm truly delighted to hear you say just now that the board is seeking to be banned. The way it was presented to us at our Defence Division meeting was that the board is supporting the two student organisations, UJS and Stand With Us, which is obviously good. But in addition, the reason it needs to be banned is that it's not an issue that just affects students and staff at university. It's an issue that affects the whole community because it's a racist campaign which supports boycott, divestment and sanctions against Israel. And the Board of Deputies cannot allow the statement that Israel is an apartheid state to enter either normative language or normative discourse, because it reaches far wider than universities, as we know. So therefore, I'm just wanting to check that there is clarity across the Board of Deputies, because this week has been Israel Apartheid Week, and the Board of Deputies does not seem to have been vocal on this issue. But I'm pleased with the words that you've stated this morning.
Well, thank you, Susan. I don't think, from what I understood, and obviously we will discuss it, that the Defence Division said they wouldn't advocate trying to ban Israel Apartheid Week. I think what the problem is going to be is there's probably going to be very little of that actually happening, but that doesn't mean we should not try and make representations. And we need to tie this in with hate speech as well, because this is where people think they can say absolutely what they want. I think that will come back to the division meetings for the deputies to discuss. But the point is, we do have to do more, but we also, I think Amanda would have tried to say that we also have to support on the ground UJS, and we also know that Stand With Us do a huge amount of good work. I think it's been fortunate this week that there hasn't been physical meetings. That's always worse, and there's been much less online to have to deal with, but it's offensive, it's disgusting, it's absolutely outrageous, and of course we've got to do all we can to make sure that we protect our students. So thank you for that. I did promise, and I need to apologise to Lawrence Julius. I did say I would give Lawrence priority from earlier on, trying to get to everybody. Thank you. Lawrence.
Great. Hello.
It's really about Israel Apartheid Week again. I feel the board should be much more active and adopt a much higher profile against IAW. It's not free speech, as we've all said, it's hate speech, and it's driving fear and intimidation at our campuses. My children suffered from it a few years ago, and it's far worse today. It's an atmosphere which is unacceptable, and the board must take a much more vocal, much more active stand against it. We've got to be in the press, we've got to be in Parliament, we've got to be using every channel. Thank you.
Thank you. And you will be seeing a campaign, which I can't tell you now, but will come out in the next couple of weeks. I absolutely agree with you. Look, I've got 2 teenage daughters. One of them's talking soon about doing A-levels and going to university. I absolutely don't want my children to have to face Israel Apartheid Week or any sort of hatred on campus. And how can I tell my own children that they should go to universities where they're going to be looked after, and it doesn't matter that they're Jews, because they should be choosing the universities where they want to go to do the best courses. And it's very important for all our children that we make sure, and grandchildren, that we can do the very, very best. So thank you for that. Nigel Tobias. Nigel, you're on mute, Nigel.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Not very well, but try.
Thank you very much. As the Board of Deputies led the way in 2000. Okay, is that better?
I'm only getting you in patchy. I'm sorry. Can I come back to you?
Yes, please do.
I'm really sorry. Sorry, Nigel. Jonathan Neumann, you wanted to ask a question.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great, thank you, Marie. Jonathan Newman, Shomrei Hadath Synagogue. As deputies will know, I've declared my candidacy for president of the board, and I'm looking forward to a positive campaign in the coming months. That's all I'll say on that. For now, I'd like to make 2 separate points. First, and in the spirit of positivity, I'd like to commend the board's leadership on the support that we've given to UJS in the fight against anti-Semitism. I'm looking forward to James's address shortly on that fight, and also the tremendous work that UJS and Jewish societies are taking to try to provide a semblance of normalcy for our Jewish students in this obviously very difficult year. My second point relates to the local election manifestos. There have been several elections during this triennium, including a general election, and the board has rightly published manifestos for these elections, but I don't believe deputies have ever been asked to debate and approve any of the manifestos during this triennium, even though the manifestos are issued in our name. Now, there are important local elections coming up in May in Scotland, London, across the country. I understand some work has gone on with the manifestos behind the scenes, as one would expect, but time-wise, we're really kind of up against it now. So can I clarify, is it the case that the board will not be issuing manifestos for these elections, or will the board be issuing a manifesto once more, but regrettably without the approval of deputies?
Well, actually, I think probably Amanda can probably answer that one for you, and probably Andrew Gilbert in a second. The local election manifestos have been drafted, and there has been consultation through the Defence Division, and we've had lots of discussions during the time, certainly that I've been at the board, particularly through the local councillors' elections, and there's a huge amount of discussion also on the manifestos through the London Jewish Forum. All of the deputies and the trustees have given input there, and the manifesto hasn't changed hugely for several years, and there has been an incredible amount of debate, and we've also had a discussion on the local manifestos through the Jewish Leadership Council, because of course we are a community and we need to work with our communal partners. We can't just seek to work in an isolated manner. We've got to work with the rest of the community. So there has been a huge amount of consultation, both at division meetings and cross-communally, and with our communal partners, and also through the London Jewish Forum. I think I'll ask Andrew perhaps to ask the next question, but he might also want to add to that, because he's particularly aware of the manifesto issue. So Andrew, if you want to ask your questions, you can have an extra 15 seconds. Thank you.
Marie, thank you very much. Immediately just going to Johnny's point,
a lot of work's gone into the London manifesto, which is a London Jewish Forum manifesto with the JLC and the board, and a lot of discussion went on backwards and forwards. That's now about to be published. There is also a council manifesto, local government manifesto, which has not been updated and will be in Hertfordshire, especially a letter that's again from the Hertfordshire Jewish Forum about what goes with that, again approved by the JLC and the board. In Manchester and Leeds, the JLC has led on a manifesto. In Scotland, the board's led on a manifesto, and so a lot of work's gone on. And the Defence Division and community issues and various others have seen these things in there. I do agree with you that I'm sure in the future there'll be much more discussion on these, but we're obviously with a much greater time frame. But a huge amount of work's been done on that. And so I just wanted to raise very quickly what Jay Sharara said. This week, as beyond the census, we're not now talking about census 2021 or census 2031. There is the Visibility Commission by the ONS, and at the moment they're asking people, organisations to respond. And it's really important by the 25th of March that we turn around and say, yes, we want on ethnic questionnaires greater visibility. And the way to do that is that there should be other Jewish on all, and otherwise at the moment we're excluded on health, crime, transport, housing, and all these local questionnaires. And please look at that. And if anyone wants the link, contact me and I'll send you the link for making a response to the consultation. Thank you.
And thank you. And Andrew did make a good point about the manifesto. We have been working with the Scottish community, but the board can't just work in isolation when we do our manifestos. We do have to work with the rest of the Jewish community as well, so that we're all on the same page, because collaboration is so important in these times, and we've all got a contribution to make. Gary Mond, you haven't spoken today. Would you like to speak? You're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you, great. Thank you. Gary Mond, JNF UK, a different issue. Several of the questions in the President's statement have related to potential reasons for the failure to pass the new constitution at the January and February plenaries. I don't accept the result had much to do with regional trustees, youth trustees, or rules regarding the mission or expulsion of organisations or deputies. I think there was one fundamental cause for the failure. We had a problem, namely the issue of potential unlimited liability. The straightforward solution was to move all of the present constitution, adjusted only for the necessities of complying with company and charity law, into the new corporate structure without, and I emphasise without, significant numbers of highly controversial alterations being included. Had that happened, I'm confident that the new arrangements would have secured over 90% support. All further changes relating, for example, to the types of trustee, admission, expulsion, etc., should have been debated totally separately and individually with binding votes on each one. That was the way forward, and it remains the only sensible way forward when another attempt is doubtless made to resolve the issues again in a few months' time. So I'd like to ask the President whether she agrees.
I would like to just say on that, it's a shame, Gary, that you didn't volunteer to go in the Constitution Working Group that had been meeting for a year and a half to try and deal with these issues. And they had met throughout that time. And unfortunately, at the end of it, they ended up having different views. But the board is a place for different views. It's a democracy. I think change is always going to be very difficult. And it's a very, very big change from an unincorporated entity to actually incorporate. And I think probably people didn't appreciate or hadn't thought about for many years that we are an unincorporated entity. And I'm told when I've asked some other people that have tried to do this, the constitutional change is very difficult, and it can take 4 or 5 goes to actually get such a big change through in the constitution. But we've been talking about it for 12 years. And at the end of the day, when we had the meeting last time, there was very little difference. We all accepted there were going to be 11 trustees. The difference really was in relation to the youth and the regional trustee. The nominations committee, that was accepted not to have a nominations committee. And in fact, the power of the president and the discretion of the president was greatly reduced in the new structure. I do hope that we will be able to resolve these issues. It's not just straightforward to say incorporate, because the basis of working is different in an incorporated entity. But I really still hope that we can increase the number of trustees, because this organisation, you can see from the organisations wanting to join the board, it really is expanding rapidly, whether it's because of lockdown or because the board's doing, which I think it is, fantastic work and people are really interested. But we need to have the governance structures and more trustees to be able to help, because it's a lot to do for only 5 trustees. It's a huge amount of work, and I've put, whatever you think when you see these meetings, I've put my heart and soul into this job, and I can tell you it's voluntary, it's not paid, but it is 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, and it's a very, very difficult job, and we really need more trustees. I think Ben Crown's got his hand up, and I'm going to let Ben speak, because he actually led this working group for a year and a half, and it's all very well for other people to want to criticise, but actually, you know, he also put his heart and soul in, and I think he might have something to add.
Yeah, just very briefly, I am a little bit surprised at Gary's comment, considering that before, you know, the Constitution Working Group worked for 2 years. It worked a year as a group. Then the consultation, paper went out to all deputies. There was a survey, a series of pair of debates. The path was made clear. You know, incorporation, trustee, the trustee board, membership criteria, and so forth. And before any of this came to deputies at all, back when this was still a series of recommendations of the working group, this was brought to the executive, and a meeting Gary was in. The executive unanimously approved this as the path forwards. Gary has never been in touch with me since in the following year to make any amendments of any kind. And I'm just not, and frankly, I don't think it's possible to run a constitution process based on consensus if people are not going to be involved, if people are going to nod things through, at every meeting except the last one, and then all of a sudden turn around and find excuses to oppose it. So I'm genuinely not sure when and if this will ever come back, and it certainly won't come back unless people are prepared to engage any more constructive way and not vote for things one time and then turn around without any explanation and vote against them.
I mean, the other thing, I'm sorry, Gary, you've had your chance. Let's just be clear. 63% shows the direction of travel. That is an overwhelming majority of the board. And I do accept there were some deputies that had very valid reasons in their mind that they thought that the process should be longer, it should be debated more. But there comes a point where democracy doesn't just mean saying, let's talk. Democracy also means, I think Louise Ellman put this very well, means taking a decision, not putting things into the long grass. But the needs of the organisation really, really do need, in my view, more trustees. I'm going to just take 2 more questions. I'm being really apologetic. I want to take more, but we won't come on to the divisional reports. Could we ask Aaron, please, can you talk to us? Under 35 observer, Aaron Cohen. Thank you. And then Anthony Adler. And then I'm so sorry, I just can't get to any more questions. And Carol, because Carol's been waiting patiently. Aaron.
Thank you, Marie. It's a pleasure to be part of my first board meeting this morning. Just a quick question, really, to go back to the issue of the local elections. I just wonder what activities we've undertaken to promote voter registration among the Jewish community, be they residents or students, in advance of the local elections. I think the deadline for registrations in England is approaching around mid-April. So there's still a bit of time left, but I just wanted to check what activities we've undertaken so far.
I think that awareness, that what you're saying, awareness, I think that's a very, very good point. And I think you'll find that the Defence Division is working on that, and perhaps it would be quite useful. Perhaps why don't you attend the division and you can see what they're trying to do. But it is very aware, because people do need to vote. It's absolutely crucial, and I think that's a very, very good point we need to take on board. So Anthony and Carol, and then I'm really, really sorry everybody else. I just can't take everyone's questions because we're not going to get through the divisional reports, which really isn't fair. Anthony, you can contact me offline. I'm very happy to call you tonight or during the week. I apologise, I cannot get onto everyone. Anthony.
Hello, Anthony Adler, St Albans Resorty Synagogue. Thank you, Madam President. Very unusually, I'm actually, the first thing I want to do is say thank you, because I was delighted to see the statement that you put out a little while ago on the police crime sentencing and courts bill, and in particular, its effects on Gypsy, Traveller and Roma people living in the UK. For those deputies who haven't heard me previously talking about this, there's a lot in that bill that lots of people are very worried about, and in particular the things that we're concerned with here is that in the way that it criminalises trespass, it will mean that members of those communities may find that they have their vehicles seized, rendering them intentionally homeless. Obviously, as a Jewish community, we have a shared history of persecution with GRT communities. I'm really glad to see the board standing alongside them. There's 2 points I want to make. Firstly, a number of deputies often like to use the rhetorical figure when we're talking about anti-Semitism that you would never see this happening to another ethnic group or another minority. Well, deputies, it's really important, I think, that we all recognise that is what we are seeing here. We are seeing the state potentially criminalise a traditional way of life for a minority group in the UK. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so proud that the Board of Deputies has put in a submission to the consultation and is taking a stand on this. Particularly want to highlight the work of Toby Coonan, who's been really raising this issue a great deal very recently.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank Anthony for his support. And also there's someone else on this board meeting that I just want to thank, and I'm sorry I'm not going to get to his question. I want to thank Brian Mark, because I know he does a lot of work pro bono for the Gypsy community. And that's something that I think is very important. And it's very, very good that he does all this work. And we should say thank you. Now I'm going to let Carol, and then I'm really sorry. We are meant to finish now. We haven't had the divisional reports and we haven't had James Harris from UJS. So I'm really sorry. I'm happy to call all the other deputies that I haven't got to.
That's freezing. I'm supposed to be speaking.
You are speaking, Carol. Carol. I think we've lost Carol.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
My internet's giving trouble. Just to say, I'm very disappointed that we're not taking the climate change, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and I think I've frozen again.
I think Carol's trying to say that she's very concerned that we haven't had the climate change motion. I'm also concerned, and we will need to try and have a special meeting. Right, I'm really sorry. I want to get to everybody else's questions. I'm very sorry, especially to Nigel, who cut out earlier. We're now going to go. Can I ask James Harris to make sure that he's got his opportunity as president of UJS to address us? And we are meant to finish at 1:40. And I'm going to ask the staff if we can see if we can have some additional time, even though they've been very good and we've had an additional hour. Apologies, I can't get to all your questions, and I will try to answer any of you that want to speak to me. James Harris.
Thank you, Marie. I'll be hopefully quite brief because I'm conscious that I want to take time for questions. But deputies, it's really a great pleasure to address you today. For those who do not know me, my name is James Harris, and I'm the president of the Union of Jewish Students, the only peer-led representative of Jewish students in the UK and Ireland. UJS has had the privilege of leading, defending and enriching Jewish student life for over 100 years. Our mission is to make sure every Jewish student can have the best possible Jewish life on campus. And I'm here today to say that nothing, not even a global pandemic, is going to get in our way of achieving this goal. In my time as a student at the University of Birmingham, I was president of the Jewish Society, the JSOC. And during and following my term, I saw and continue to see the incredible things that Jewish students can do as a collective and united voice. And following in the words of my late predecessor, Alan Sennett, we have seen more Jewish students doing more Jewish things. Anyone who has been a member of their Jewish society will know that JSOCs are the centre of Jewish life on campus, and the Friday night dinner experience, where hundreds of students come together to chat over a bowl of chicken soup, is the highlight of everyone's week. We know that this year has been different, but this has not stopped Jewish students engaging in entirely new and creative ways with their Judaism than ever before. To name just a few highlights, we continue to supply thousands of Shabbat packs and Friday night dinners in a box to students at a time when in-person dinners are actually impossible. Moreover, we've facilitated the celebration of festivals in new ways. Jewish students from across the country came together on Zoom to celebrate Purim, listen to the Megillah, and make cocktails as well. And we facilitated a national Valentine's matchmaking event, which raised hundreds for Save a Child's Hearts, a new hospital wing in Israel. I've been so proud to see our Jewish students thinking creatively to engage with their Judaism in such a variety of ways. And all of this was only possible because of the determination of our Jewish students and the advice, support, guidance, and resources provided by UJS and our fantastic team. This year, our focus has been on transforming the way we engage with students to make UJS not just a union of Jewish students, but a union for Jewish students, considering the role our students play in everything we do as an organisation. In a year of such challenge and adversity, many of you, I'm sure, would have thought that Jewish life on campus would have come to a complete standstill. But this could not be further from the truth. If there is one thing to take away from this year, it is to not underestimate the youth of our community. This year is the year that we have been able to completely rethink the way that we directly and indirectly support students. The pandemic has compelled us to embrace the digital age, but out of the challenges that this represents, the incredible opportunity presented itself in engaging more students than ever before. From thousands of students engaging in our weekly peer-led Divrei Torah series to providing essential services to Jewish students self-isolating, we have truly made a difference this year. My journey as UJS president began by wanting to make long-lasting change, campaigning for a better campus for Jewish students in years to come. And of course, when I ran for election, coronavirus and the pandemic wasn't even a thing. But over the last year, Jewish students have been taking part in campaigning on issues that matter to them, have been pioneering bold campaigns affecting long-lasting and positive change for the improvement of life on campus for Jewish students, both now and far into the future. And prominently, and as some have said previously, it was great to see so many of you at our Hate Off Campus online rally last month with Bristol JSOC, where we called on the university to take action against the notorious member of faculty, Professor David Miller. And it's my pleasure to inform deputies once again, and this has been said already, that the university has finally announced publicly that they are investigating Professor Miller's conduct. And this has only been possible because of the support and solidarity shown to our incredibly resilient Jewish students by the community and our allies, which have put the university under huge amounts of pressure. And we will certainly be holding the university to account moving forwards on this. The clear thing, again, to take away from this is when Jewish students are under threat, UJS steps up to fight for and with them shoulder to shoulder. But we do not only react to anti-Semitism, we work tirelessly to be proactive to try and prevent these issues before they even arise. My team have delivered anti-Semitism awareness training this year to over 1,000 student union sabbatical officers and staff. And also we started this year by conducting research that found only 29 institutions had adopted the IHRA definition. And we said this was not enough. Thanks to the dedicated work of UJS, Jewish students and our allies, we now know of over 75 institutions which have adopted the IHRA definition, including every Russell Group university in England. This year, we've also successfully fought off BDS motions at students' unions, fighting the delegitimization of the Jewish state. We recently directly confronted the NUS president when she chose to attend an event for the so-called Israel Apartheid Week alongside the founder of BDS and continue to challenge the lies spread about the state of Israel within the student movement. We as a community need to be empowering Jewish students to defend the state of Israel on campus, and we need to be empowering them to do this confidently. And finally, UJS has been at the heart of engaging with how youth representation has changed and likely will change in the years to come. After conversations with some younger deputies, with no doubt more to be had, it is clear that the board's incredible cohort of younger deputies needs a more amplified voice. The board needs to ensure that there is always youth representation on divisions an under 35 deputy on the executive. And we need a collective forum created by and for the youth to discuss youth issues, a youth council akin to the regional council. Over the coming weeks, myself, along with other younger deputies, will be undertaking an equality impact assessment to assess the viability of these and other measures and the need to better amplify youth representation in the board. If there are any younger deputies who do want to highlight their thoughts about what they would like to see from increased youth engagement in the board, please do let me know offline as well. But to everyone else, thank you very much for allowing me this time to speak. This year has been an absolute pleasure, but also a challenge to serve as UJS president, president of UJS, one of the cornerstone organisations in our community. We've accomplished so much, and we will never stop. And UJS plays such an important role in developing the leaders of our community. And I'm really looking forward to always supporting and fighting for our community and our Jewish students. And I'd be more than happy to take any questions.
James, can I say we are so grateful for all you have done. We absolutely admire everything you've had to do. You really are doing an amazing work. I absolutely support youth empowerment. I hope that we will see a youth council in the way that we have a council for regional deputies. And the impact assessment is necessary to see and look at areas where there is underrepresentation of youth. And when we have the impact assessment, as James has said, we really need to look at having places also, not just either at a trustee or on the executive as an interim measure for younger members of the community, but also to have representation in the divisions so that there is a balance of views there. So well done, James. We look forward to seeing the impact assessment, which we will absolutely do all we can to give you the information, and then we can have consultation and discussion what happens next. So we support you all the way. I think you've probably got time for 2 questions because we haven't started the divisional reports, and I'm waiting to hear whether we've got a bit of extra time. Could I just clarify though, for the purposes from David Mendoza-Wolfson spoke earlier, he erroneously made reference to Piers Morgan when he spoke, and of course he meant Piers Corbyn. So I just want to be able to make that clear. James, do you want to ask the 2 people that you'd like for your questions? Over to you. You're on mute.
Okay. Oh, brilliant. There we go. David Safir.
Thank you very much, James, and thank you for the wonderful work that you and all of UJS are doing. May I just say that some years ago, when there was a major problem with anti-Semitism, especially in terms of funding on certain campuses, that the board realized that it had another resource to turn to. And that is, of course, that many deputies are alumni of the universities in which you encounter problems. Not only alumni, but in some cases, quite generous donors to those universities. And so, given that I am sure I'm amongst many who've heard you today who are alumni of British universities, in fact, also foreign universities, it may well be that we can engage with you and collaborate with you, coordinate with you, so that instead of just talking to vice chancellors and provosts and obviously local organizations, both Jewish and civic organizations, that we can also perhaps poll deputies as to which universities they're associated with and where they may be able to bring their, shall we say, their pockets to bear when it comes to the next time we're asked to donate to those universities. Thank you.
Definitely, and thank you very much, David, for your kind words at the start. I mean, we would definitely welcome any and all engagement from alumni of universities. Please do, if you would like to support Jewish students, if you'd like to help where you think might be necessary, please do get in touch with us, and we can definitely help facilitate that. And so as not to avoid conflict, again, I'm just going to go to the first person to my left, Melanie Kelly.
Hi, James. Thank you very much for calling on me. I want to know whether you're receiving enough support from the community to do the vital work that you do. I'm aware of a couple of occasions where students have brought anti-Semitic issues to your attention. They haven't been issues that have been perhaps large enough to create a press furore and interest like the Bristol University issue is. And I'm very impressed with what you've managed to do there. But these students have been left, even though you have been aware of the situation, pretty much to fend for themselves, which is obviously very concerning and very difficult for them. And I wondered whether you have enough support and whether you have, if there's anything the community should be doing to give you more resources.
Thank you very much, Melanie. So I guess obviously to state on the record, UJS is a charity, and like so many other charities in the sector, we have struggled this year. This year, it has been very much a challenge. Broadly speaking, we have huge amounts of support from the community, even if it's not specifically financial, but even generally with advice, with guidance, and with the incredible network that our community gives and lends itself to. Our team really works tirelessly to support Jewish students, as I hope you've heard during my presentation. And really, whenever we hear of issues, we will work publicly where need be, but in the first instance, privately as well, to support those Jewish students in achieving justice. So, I mean, if there are any specific instances of Jewish students experiencing abuse, please do tell them to get in touch with me or point me in their direction, and I'd be happy to help.
I've been told, thank you, that we have to finish at 1:45. We've already lost about 90 deputies. We haven't had the divisional reports or the climate change motion, and I'm going to consult to see whether we can have an extra meeting. So I don't know, James, if you want to take another question so that you have the last word. Paul Edlin also had his hand up, I think, previously. You decide who you would like to have the last question. Or two if they're quick.
I'm just I don't really want to take a specific preference, so I am just going whoever's on the furthest left on my screen, just going one by one. That's fine.
I know it's difficult.
It is. Kim Cohen.
You're on mute, Kim.
Thanks on mute. Hello, have I unmuted?
That's it, you've unmuted.
Yeah, sorry, it didn't work first time. Thank you very much, James. Can I just say how wonderful UJS has developed a valiant, brave and committed body that makes our Jewish students, we've all had our children at university, we've been to university, how they make them feel part of a well-organized, protected and represented organisation, and all tribute to you. Can I just mention one very important fact that hasn't come up today, in that Jewish academics are under pressure as well, and they're not as well represented as UJS. And I'm just wondering whether there's any crossover between UJS and Jewish academics, because Jewish academics, and I have got examples, but there's no time today, are suffering, and of course they're employed there, and sometimes their voice is muted because they're in an employment situation and concerned about their own positions, and that we should remember that they're not as well organized, they're not organized as well at all, as far as I can understand. There isn't a union of Jewish academics, but that is one glaring hole. I just wonder if you have any comments on that, James.
So again, thank you, Kim, for your very kind words. I guess the obvious thing is that we aren't the Union of Jewish Academics, as you quite rightly pointed out. But we do work with Jewish academics from a variety of campuses. I know the board does do a lot of work together with Jewish academics, and of course we work a lot with the board on campus life in general. One thing I did want to mention was there was a questionnaire right now, I believe it was produced by the Education Division or the, right. In fact, yeah, Marie can correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
For Jewish academics to identify issues where they would need support or where they can support Jewish students. So, I mean, other than saying, I'd welcome working with Jewish academics to support Jewish students, I'd encourage all Jewish academics to fill in the board survey.
Absolutely. And the link to that questionnaire can be found on the back of the Defence Division report, item C, which sets out something for you all to look at. And it would be really appreciated if you could all fill that in. Last question, do you want to ask, James?
Flora, Frank? Oh.
Well, I think we're coming up to finishing anyway.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, sorry, deputies, I'm very sorry that you couldn't all speak repeatedly, and I'm very sorry for anybody who didn't this time get a chance to ask their question. I know that Joy wanted to ask another question, Flora couldn't get through, and Robert hasn't asked his question, so they will have priority next time if they want to remind me. I think it's been a very, very good meeting today. I think you've all put your views, we've had open, we've had frank discussion. We're working in very, very difficult times. I again want to say how proud I am of Gillian Meron, everything she's done for our organisation, and the fact, looking forwards, that we've got so many organisations that want to join the board. That is an amazing testament to her work, the work of the team, and the honorary officers. The board has never been so popular, and we should be proud of everything we've done to represent our communities and to advocate for the Jewish community through very difficult times, through the terrible times of the Labour Party and Jeremy Corbyn, through the pandemic. We have reacted amazingly. We are a very resilient community. We've all come together. The volunteering up and down the country, the togetherness, they are all things that we can be proud of. We can also be proud that we've got so many different points of views. 3 Jews, 3 opinions, everybody wants to be a prime minister. That's the good community that we know. We certainly know how to stand tall, and we should be proud of everything that we do and that we have done. And I want to thank you for your time. It's been a very long meeting. I've very much enjoyed it. We will come back to you because we do need to do the motion, which is very important for climate change, and an opportunity for the divisional reports. So I hope that you will have a very nice Sunday afternoon. I want to thank you for joining us for this meeting, and to wish all of you well. And again, Gillian, I clap and I say thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for everything, Gillian, that you have done. We know you are a huge friend to the community. Gillian's been very, very patient dealing with all of us and still smiling. So thank you. And thank Michael also for the work that he will be doing for us. So speak to you all soon, and thank you for joining. And also, I have to say, Nigel Tobias, I want to give him priority for next time as well. That anyone, please do send me a WhatsApp or an email, or any other way you want to contact me to let me know for priority, and I'll make sure that you do have for next time. So thank you.